Uhuru comrades. Just want to really welcome everybody on today. My name is Mwezi Odom. I am a member of the African People's Socialist Party, and I'm also the chairperson of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Counteroffensive, and the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition, which is the reason that we are here on today. And I just want to take a moment to really appreciate everybody who's already joined us on this call. Some of our longtime supporters in this struggle, but also many of you who are new and who are joining this struggle, this discussion for the first time. And I just really want to appreciate this opportunity to launch the Hands Off Uhuru Latin America Front. And I'm going to pull up some slide. We can cue the slides at this point as well. And I want to say that when I say Uhuru, Uhuru means freedom. And this is a freedom call that the African People's Socialist Party and the African Revolution has used to signify libertad, which means freedom. And we say that until until it's won, until that is true for every colonized and oppressed person on this planet. And that is what today is about. This is about extending the struggle for liberation, the struggle for self-determination, the struggle for freedom, all throughout the Americas, all throughout the colonized world. And we want to salute all the masses who have been fighting and a part of that struggle for centuries. And we have a very exciting program on today. So as I mentioned, today is the Hands Off. This is brought to you by the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign, and this is the new front of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. This was a committee that was, built under the principle of, organizing a coalition that put in place the leadership of the colonized and the working class, oppressed masses of the world to be able to lead their struggle. This was formed on July 20 in 2023. And today we are launching the Hands Off Uhuru Latin America Front to defend the right to freedom of speech and to build the anti-colonial free speech movement. So before we continue on, I want to invite everybody to share this webinar. If you are watching on YouTube or on the Facebook, please share this as well, and invite people to register and join us here also on Zoom. I also want to salute the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru Movement, and the worldwide global African liberation struggle. This is Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who is, the reason that I am here, the reason that I understand the world in this way. And I just really want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela, a veteran in the struggle for Black power. I also want to salute Deputy Chair Onezune Yeshitela, who is a leading member of the African People's Socialist Party and who leads the very important economic fronts of the organization. As we say, the economic and the political are one. And I just want to really salute Comrade Deputy Chair Onezune Yeshitela. And as we mentioned, the struggle of the Uhuru Three, which is the long struggle for the past 3 years that this organization has been a part of. I want to also salute two of those members who lead the solidarity front of the Uhuru movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. And this is Comrade Penny Hess, who is the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and Jesse Neville, who is the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Mass Movement. So the case of the Uhuru Three is the case for the future of free speech. This case is one of the most serious political assaults on the struggle for African liberation since the 1960s. This was a test case, and Chairman Omali Yeshitela, was the main target of these attacks on the movement. The struggle for anti-colonial free speech, we have to understand, is rooted in the struggle of colonialism. And this is the struggle against colonialism. And, you're going to hear this word a lot in these webinars and in our, work. And so we want to make sure that we understand, what is colonialism? Colonialism is the foreign and alien domination of a people for the purpose of economic exploitation and political advantage. This allows it to strip a people of all human and civil rights and to rule without the regard to law. Who are colonized people? Colonized peoples are the people of the world whose self-determination, economic, and political power has been taken from them at gunpoint, and through other, economic and political, strategies of the colonial state. And those rest now in the hands of the foreign and the alien powers for the purpose of economic exploitation and political advantage for the colonists. We say that it's important to know what you're fighting for, because then you know how to, because then you know what you're fighting for, and then how to beat your enemy. So we have to understand the question of colonialism. And on that note, it's really important that we take a moment to, say long live and presente to our comrade Assata Shakur, a long, time fighter in the Black liberation struggle. And we just want to really salute this comrade for her contributions to the African Revolution and to the global revolution as well. And we want to salute and say presente to Comrade Assata Shakur Uhuru. We also salute Puerto Rico's history of resistance against colonial capitalism, economic and political stranglehold. And we see that the US government uses Puerto Rico as a point of expropriation and profit extraction. And more recently, continues to launch, as a launch pad for ships to attack other colonized countries such as Venezuela. The African People's Socialist Party stands in deep solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico and their struggle to be free from colonial domination. I'm going to also bring up my co-MC, who's going to also take us through a couple of these slides as well. So Uhuru Comrade Paulo, I'll turn this one over to you, Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you, Chair NYC. So yes, as we see headlines about Nicaragua reaffirming its unbreakable union with Venezuela in the face of imperial aggression, we're also seeing that Cuba continues to face a decades-long blockade and stranglehold by the U.S. and its allies, urging international action and to prevent U.S. aggression against Venezuela. At the same time, recently, the Donald Trump administration has replaced black-based imperialism with the Trump lackeys who won't question Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's orders. Recently, General Michael Langley, former head of AFRICOM, resigned in August, and Admiral Alvin Holsey, who is the head of Southcom, but will conclude his service by the end of 2025. This is a process making way for new yes men replacements for a much more aggressive posture on U.S. foreign policy, especially on Venezuela, as we're seeing right now.
Uhuru, thank you for that, comrade. And, we look at the Caribbean, region. This is the site of the first workers' revolution. We have, the struggle for the people and African people of Haiti, who were punished for this defeat of colonial powers and, and for gaining their independence from the French, the Spanish, and the British. And so we say, long live the Haitian Revolution. We say no to the colonial military occupation of Haiti. We say hands off Haiti, and we say hands off Africa. And, as the crisis of imperialism deepens, we continue to see the rise in self-determination. We see this as an example with the Alliance of Sahel states, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, who are all former ECOWAS, and their, recent, announcement and work to withdraw from the International Criminal Court.
Uhuru. And we also say victory to Palestine. Stop the genocide of the Palestinian people. The African People's Socialist Party has always stood in deep solidarity with the Palestinian people's struggle against colonialism and for independence and liberation from the settler colonial state and the colonial empire. Next slide. So we worldwide support for the Palestinian people is represented all over, as we also fight here in the belly of the beast here in the United States. And so we want to salute the Freedom Flotilla and this salutes to the HOU members who participated on that as well.
Uhuru. And, the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition continues to unite with the call to free all political prisoners. We want to remind and to continue to make the call for justice and to free Comrade Imam Jamil Amin, as well as free Comrade Mumia Abu Jamal. So we say free all political prisoners now. So As we begin to open up for today's, segment and what today is about, we want to welcome those of you who are still, who are just joining us now. Again, this is the Hands Off Uhuru, Latin America Front, brought to you by the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition. We say Hasta la victoria siempre. And I want to welcome and, just show everybody, just announce who are the speakers that you will be hearing from today. So here to break down, we have a packed program with some amazing speakers and presentations, to speak on the various struggles. So to speak on the struggle of Venezuela, we have Comrade Jesus Rodriguez Espinosa, who is the editor of Orinoco Tribune and also a founding member of the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition. I also want to say that you will be hearing more from our great co-host, Comrade Paolo Cruz-Alegui, who is of Los Ronderos de las Redes, and also, as we know, the Peruvian Chasqui, the messenger, that is this comrade, to speak on Peru. Also, on the Mexican Indigenous Front, the Mexican Liberation Struggle, we have Comrade Harry Simon Salazar of Unión del Barrio, a founding member of the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition and a long time sister organization of the African People's Socialist Party. So I just want to salute Comrade Harry as well. On Ecuador, Comrade Roxana Tanguila, who is here of the Quijos Nation and, represent a youth leader of the Quijos Indigenous Nation in Ecuador. She will be joining us here on today as well. We very much look forward to hearing from the comrade, as well as on Nicaragua, Comrade Barbara Larcom of the Nicaragua Solidarity Committee, or coalition rather. And I just want to appreciate this comrade for being on and, we can say more about it, but a very important struggle that African people unite with the liberation for the people of Nicaragua. And to speak on Cuba, I want to welcome Comrade, I think we have the wrong slide. I'm sorry, to our MC so we can get the right one up. I want to welcome Comrade Cesar Sanchez, who is one of the 6 co-chairs of the National Network on Cuba. This comrade is here joining us on today to speak on the struggle of, Cuba and a recent report back on a recent trip. And I also wanted to also salute our comrades from the Hands Off Uhuru Cuba Committee, or the U.S. Hands Off Cuba Committee, who were unable to make it on today because they're on the ground in Cuba and will be joining us again very shortly. So we have a great, exciting, lineup, as well as to finally hear from the voice of the African nation, the African working class, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, leader of the African People's Socialist Party and the Black is Back Coalition, as well as a special message and call to action for our supporters and for our comrades of Black Power 96 Radio, who will be making an update about their upcoming appeal. So on July 29, 2022, the US government and the FBI made a violent open assault on the African Revolution in the form of the African People's Socialist Party. 3 leading members of the Uhuru movement were indicted and tried in federal court 3 years later, based on FBI's bogus allegations implying that the party's 50+ years of struggle and for liberation for Africa and African people everywhere was a conspiracy, led by the Russians as, for us acting as foreign agents. We assembled a, brilliant legal team, and I just want to salute our comrades and our and all of the attorneys of the Uhuru 3, Addie Griffin, Mutaki Akbar, Leonard Goodman, Angela Rainey, and Tom Inskeep. And just to say that this struggle, exploded and allowed us to take support and gain support from across the world, building the global anti-colonial free speech movement. Here are just a very, few photos of some of the work, spanning across many continents, in support of the Uhuru 3. And we want to salute our founding members of the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition and our growing list of supporters and endorsers with over 200 supporting organizations and individuals. The Uhuru 3 trial was a victory, and on the sentencing day, the judge said they won't spend 1 day in prison and no fine for the Uhuru 3. We packed the federal courthouse, and supporters came from across the political spectrum and all around the U.S. This not guilty, verdict of working for the Russians, but the Uhuru 3 were wrongfully convicted on charges of conspiracy. So, but we understand that this was a victory for all colonized and oppressed people. So this brings us to the question of the Uhuru 3 appeal. We are appealing that bogus wrongful conviction. This appeal was filed in June of 2025, written by our brilliant legal team. And we want to salute our legal team and say that this appeal will have massive political and legal significance. A victory for this appeal will have implications far beyond the Uhuru 3, but for every person, every organization who may, end up in the crosshairs of the U.S. government's repression for exercising their own free speech rights. So we can say more, but our appeal has been, submitted and has now been actually escalated to the Department of Justice. So we know that we, hope to hear a response soon and say more. But we are launching a campaign against the, to say, a campaign against the FARA, which is the Foreign Agents Registration Act, and all conspiracy laws. We want to put the colonial state on trial because we understand that these laws are explicitly political laws. So we say abolish the foreign agents law and conspiracy laws. And we're going to have a conference coming up in January 2026. We want you to save the date where we will be, calling on people to build this at what, and, we will launch this, counteroffensive. We must fight for anti-colonial free speech. We understand that these attacks are a violation of, free speech, and this was the first time in history that the U.S., colonial law used these foreign agent laws to target pure political speech. The crisis of imperialism continues to deepen, under the colonial mode of production. So, Comrade Paulo is gonna, talk to us about how this is, showing throughout the world. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you, Chair Mwezi. So U.S. and NATO awards are bound. Ukraine, Poland, Qatar take place in a system built on slavery, genocide, and colonialism. And just recently, Colombia, the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, made the commitment to leave NATO, which is a big victory to the anti-imperialist struggle, not just in Latin America, but around the world, as this is a region that we want to keep preserving a zone of peace. Next slide. ICE crackdowns and the people's resistance. And so this is an ongoing struggle even before Donald Trump's presidency. But ICE has been here since George W. Bush's establishing when the Patriot Act went through in the War on Terror period. And this is still ongoing, where the Donald Trump administration is going after not only migrants but Palestinian activists, the activists in general on RICO charges, and labeling activists as terrorists. This is a theme that we're seeing abroad as well. But here in the belly of the beast, this is the further display of how a crumbling democracy, a crumbling colonial system we see internally, where the people are rising up, people are awakened to the fact that this is a settler colonial entity, just like Israel. And so the people from Los Angeles to Portland to Chicago to DC are rising up. Next slide. Yes, to further to that point, mass resistance to ICE in Chicago, strong solidarity with the indigenous people. We salute to the Uhuru Solidarity Movement comrades and everyone who is fighting back against the secret police that are forcibly kidnapping, even murdering people at point blank, launching tear gas at the civilians. This is a struggle internally that that the whole world is watching and are afraid to we relive that as migrants who have been forcibly displaced once before from our homelands because of political persecution, because of war-torn regions. We have faced through military occupations, coups, the destabilization in general from U.S. imperialist foreign policy. Next. So on September 25th, Donald Trump made memorandums on to extend the attack on the Uhuru 3 and the anti-colonial free speech. This is a struggle that we are keeping a close eye to, whilst the mainstream media is turning away from this. This is a very attack against the arm of the organizing arm of the people who are resisting against this colonial state, led by Donald Trump, led by Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, and other figures that are putting this new white supremacist agenda back in front and center. Next slide. So Trump threatens to invoke the Insurrection Act and empowers the president to nationally deploy the U.S. military against cities and federalize the National Guard. We've been seeing how the California National Guard recently it was to be deployed to Oregon to train the troops over there. We have seen it in cities like Los Angeles and Santa Ana with the National Guard stationed there and launching tear gas, just brutally repressing our people who are there to protect the community that are migrants, day laborers. Continue. So U.S. bombs Venezuela's ships. As of October 17th, 2025, the U.S. military has killed at least 27 people in a series of 6 strikes on vessels near Venezuela since early September 2025. The U.S. claims the vessels were involved in drug trafficking, whilst some sources question the legality of the attacks and note a lack of evidence. And these were not only Venezuelans, but President Gustavo Petro of Colombia accused that these attacks targeted also Colombians on those same ships. And so, does the U.S. really want to go to war with Venezuela, but also on Colombia as well? We shall see. Next. So we see the rise in oppressed nations standing in solidarity with one another against colonial capitalism. Trump bombing of Venezuela ship and attacks on Latin America, and amidst the ongoing vicious attacks on the peoples of Venezuela, they overcome economic war, hybrid warfare, that reached, and also they have reached 90% food sovereignty, food self-sufficiency. At the same time, whilst we are struggling to make ends meet back in here in the belly of the beast, all this money for the war effort is draining us from internally. And so we see countries like Ecuador, Colombia, Nicaragua, and Cuba stand in ongoing and unwavering solidarity as well. Yeah, so
Uhuru.
Next slide.
Uhuru. Thank you, Comrade Paulo. I just want to really appreciate that overview. And, this is why today we're making the call to build the Hands Off Uhuru Latin America front and, to extend the struggle for anti-colonial free speech on every front and resistance that is, alive throughout the Americas and, and the Caribbean, all the indigenous land of the so-called Americas. And one of our goal is to continue to build this committee as we continue to cover, what the resistance is, looking like in the face of bold, violent, and, desperate dying social system. So we, salute the victory of the Uhuru 3 because this was a victory for all oppressed and colonized peoples. And so we call on everybody to build solidarity also with the African, resistance struggle for African people, for our right to organize, for self-determination for Africa and African people. And we see this worldwide resistance, this rise of anti-colonial struggles worldwide, fighting the colonial mode of production. Worldwide, resistance is abounding in this period of a dying imperialism. And the only thing that we, can do to end war and oppression is under the leadership of African and other anti-colonial struggles worldwide. So this insurgency of the colonized and the oppressed peoples of the world must lead this struggle. So as we wrap up and get to begin today's program, we want to let everybody know that we do have a goal to raise towards the Hands Off Uhuru legal fund. We are, raising resources towards the oral arguments for the appeal, which are expected in 2026. And we're calling on people to go right now to handsoffuhuru.org/donate to contribute to our goal of raising $1,000 on today. So without further ado, I want to, go ahead and we'll begin our program. So I just want to say, let's have an exciting program, comrades, and we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Uhuru. So as we shift gears, I'm going to, as we begin and frame today's session, we'll go ahead and pull up on the screen for everybody. We're going to take a look at the Hands Off Uhuru Latin America Front Statement of Purpose. And this is a document that was formed by the coalition, to explain why this front is opening. So I'm going to take a moment to read this. You can also follow this online on the handsoffuhuru.org website, but we're also going to have it ready for you. And I just want to appreciate our AV tech for doing that. So I'll go ahead and get started. So the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition opens the Latin America Front. This is the statement of purpose. So under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, who has led the struggle for the past 50 years, fighting for democratic space and anti-colonial free speech, the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition is pleased to announce the launch of our Latin America Front, extending the reach of the struggle to protect and safeguard our right to anti-colonial free speech throughout this hemisphere. The newly formed Latin America Front joins other international Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa committees, including South Africa, Sierra Leone, London, and Paris, along with those throughout the US. The Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition enjoys the membership and support of hundreds of organizations and individuals from across the political spectrum who have united with the HOU principles and the right of African, Indigenous, Mexican, Palestinian, and other colonized people to fight for our liberation is key to the enjoyment and exercise of free speech for all people. This new front opens the space for liberation from colonialism for the people of Latin America struggling against oppressive US-backed governments for self-determination. We salute the heroic Indigenous, African, and freedom-loving peoples of Latin America who have repeatedly led the world in creation of an equitable and just societies, including Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, among others. African people have always stood shoulder to shoulder with the liberation struggle of the peoples of the world. And in this period when political rights are being targeted, the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition is a critical mass-based tool created to prevent the colonial government from silencing the voice of African or other oppressed and freedom-loving people in the ongoing fight for freedom, liberation, and self-determination. Chairman Amalia Shatella has discussed how, quote, as African people in the US, we are a part of the revolution of the Americas. We are a part of the revolutionary process that hungry, poor, oppressed, and brutalized people, the hated, despised, and spat upon people all over the world are trying to make. That is particularly true here in what we call the Americas. The coalition is an affirmation that forces from every walk of life and political belief can find unity and purpose in the defense of the rights of African people and the fact that when African people come under attack, everyone's rights are under threat. We recognize that African people have always been at the forefront of the struggle for civil and democratic rights in this country and throughout the world. And this is a struggle that represents the main front against US imperialist war and colonial exploitation of the world's people. The formation of the Latin America Front of Hands Off Uhuru affirms to the world that the struggle for African people to determine their own destiny is a life-affirming quest for all of humanity, with the goal of creating a world without oppressors and the oppressed, no one at the expense of any other. So we say, build the Latin America Front of the anti-colonial free speech movement. Join the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition at handsoffuhuru.org/coalition. We say, El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. All power to the people, Black power to the African nation. Colonialism must go. Venceremos. So you can follow, and that can be linked in the chat on, whichever platform you're looking from. Our chat moderators can also share that link with you. But as it states, we're going to move on to our next section and open it up so we can hear from our esteemed panelists. And, each of our panelists will take a moment to discuss some of the struggles and resistance throughout the Americas in their particular regions, and why we must build and deepen the struggle for self-determination and the struggle for anti-colonial free speech. So I want to welcome up our first panelist that we're going to be hearing from. This is Carmad Jesus Rodriguez Espinosa from Orinoco Tribune. So I want to welcome you, Comrade, and I'm going to turn it over to you. So Uhuru, un abrazo.
Uhuru Nwesi, thank you again.
Uhuru.
Uh, I just want to begin my words highlighting the importance of solidarity. And I believe that this initiative itself, the creation of this new Latin American front by the Uhuru movement is an extraordinary initiative that points into that direction, the direction of solidarity. And that is something that the Uhuru movement has been showing for years. Chairman Jesse Tele has been, since the beginning of the Bolivarian Revolution and Chavismo in Venezuela, a staunch supporter of Hugo Chavez and now of President Nicolás Maduro, that is following, the directions and the ideas embodied in the concept of Chavismo and the Bolivarian Revolution here in Venezuela. So it's extremely important that we understand the importance of solidarity, and that solidarity is a solidarity that is not only an international solidarity. You should realize, we all need to realize that solidarity also works inside our own countries. And for that reason, it is important to show solidarity to our compass in the Afro-American and the Afro movement, not only in the U.S. but all over the world, but also show solidarity to the migrants, the Latino migrants that has been criminalized and demonized by not only by the U.S. government, but by most European countries and the countries in the north. So for that reason, solidarity is extremely important, and we from Venezuela has been also always trying to be in solidarity with the people around the world. At least we in Orinoco Tribune has been trying hard to support the Uhuru movement since the FBI, initial aggressions against them, and we still support their initiative, their appeal, and we are going to be there because that's what solidarity means. And we are also in solidarity with the Compass in Nicaragua or Cuba, or the compas that are in the streets right now in Peru and Ecuador, trying to oust and fight against the repression of those pro-U.S. puppet governments of Novoa in Ecuador and this new puppet that they put in Peru a few days ago. So for that reason, solidarity is extremely important. That's something that I wanted to highlight. And also I want to highlight the importance of fighting colonialism and capitalism, as Mwesi already said, that are, the key elements that allowed this system of exploitation to continue. We need to realize that the key elements behind colonialism and capitalism one of the key elements is racism, and we need to fight also that element because that affects us all. Black communities, Afro-American communities, Latino communities, we are all affected by this system that believe for a weird reason that we are inferior than the white people, and that we, for that reason, deserves to be colonized and subjugated. And that's an aberration that might only have an explanation in the Middle Ages, but right now it's an aberration, as I already said. So we need to fight that. Capitalism, colonialism are extremely painful and dangerous concepts that needs to be destroyed. Uh, what happened in Venezuela is another important thing, and what we represent to be the subject of recent U.S. aggression. Well, a lot of people say that, of course, the natural resources in Venezuela, oil, gold, and many other, mineral resources that we have here are the main drivers for the recent, not only the reason, because we in Venezuela, since the arrival of Chavismo 25 years ago, has been suffering, this aggression. But of course, in recent days, the aggression has been escalating to unusual, I mean, unprecedented levels. So, but I believe that it's not only natural resources. I mean, we are talking about Venezuela, the same as Nicaragua or Cuba, being a bad example between quotations, and it's something that the U.S. Do not want to have in what they consider is their backyard. So we need to realize that it's not only natural resources that the gringos are for in their aggression against Venezuela, but also they want to destroy what the Bolivarian Revolution and Chavismo means. And after dealing with us, that is going to be very hard to crush us. The plan is to go after the other, socialist projects in the region or anti-imperialist projects in the region like Nicaragua or Cuba. So we need to be aware of that. It is also important to highlight that, as I already said, this is an unprecedented level of aggression that we have been seeing against Venezuela in recent weeks. For the last 2 months, the U.S. has been building up a military apparatus off the coast of Venezuela. We are talking about 8 U.S. warships, 1 nuclear submarine, several F-35 fighter jets. And right now, the U.S. media, mainstream media, is talking about 10,000 troops ready to do anything against Venezuela. So we have been preparing for that. We are not going to sit idle here waiting for the gringos to bomb us or to invade us. So that's something that I also wanted to let you know, because some people might believe that we are just sitting here waiting for the gringos to arrive, and what happened has been the opposite. The Venezuelan society, even those that oppose Chavismo, has united, and we have been creating this uh, united front against U.S. military intervention against Venezuela, and that's something that you won't read in mainstream media because they don't want to talk about those things. The same thing happened with the with the with the enlistment for the Bolivarian militia. We have in Venezuela something that is called the Bolivarian militia. That is not a militia like a militia like the ones that you have in the U.S. in Minnesota or Indiana. Those crazy militias. I mean, we are talking about the militia in Venezuela is part of the armed forces. It's one of the branches of the armed forces. And since the beginning of the U.S. military threats, the recent ones, President Maduro called for an enlistment, and in less than 6 weeks, the numbers of militia people raised from 5 million to 8 million people. So that gives you an idea on how we are against U.S. Aggression against Venezuela. And in parallel, the military has been strengthening and radicalizing and intensifying the training of the old militia people, but also the training of the new militia people. And in parallel to simultaneously, the union between the armed force, the militia, and the people and the grassroots movement has been strengthening a lot. We are talking that we have been having military drills for the last, I don't know, like 6 or 7 weeks already. And there are trainings for the new militia people. There are military drills for the military people. So the country has been, activating its defensive apparatus. And the most amazing part of that is that strengthening has been going hand in hand and actually deepening the interconnection between the military and the militia and the communes that are, if you ask me, the jewel of the crown of Chavismo, of the Bolivarian Revolution, because are the communities themselves, the grassroots organizations in the barrios that are organizing to not only to defend the country, but most importantly, to solve their problems. So, but right now, that integration between the militia, the military, and the communal council has been strengthening. Like, what I'm trying to tell you is that the level of integration, of coordination that has been happening in recent weeks only could have been achieved like in 3 or 5 years. And we have been achieving that in a few weeks just because of the U.S. aggression. Or the threat of U.S. aggression. So with that, I want to end my words, just ratifying you that the gringos are not going to be able to deal with us easily. We are not going to allow the gringos to crush the Bolivarian Revolution. I want to let you know that a few airstrikes against a few Chavista leaders won't end the Bolivarian Revolution, because Chavismo, it goes beyond our leadership. Our leadership is important, but Chavismo is bigger than our leadership, and we will be able to prevail and to defeat any U.S. aggression. So, Uhuru Compas, and I love you from Venezuela.
Uhuru, Uhuru, compadre. Jesus, thank you so much. Just want to really appreciate your that this will be led by the people. And, I just really want to salute that, statement, and to just unite with the struggle against colonialism is the struggle against racism, imperialism, capitalism. We have to know what we're fighting. And I just want to, really unite with the, struggles that you raised. And I hope that you will stay on, comrade, because we will have, questions later on, and others may have questions as well. So we're going to move on in our program, in our exciting panel. And I just want to introduce our next speaker, who is also my co-MC, Comrade Paulo, who is a Peruvian activist, a human rights consultant, a writer, a journalist, organizer for the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition, and co-founder of Los Ronderos de las Redes, an anti-colonial Peruvian collective that uplifts the indigenous people for social justice and self-determination in Peru, and builds anti-imperialist solidarity in the US for the sovereignty of Latin America and the Caribbean. Paulo has traveled to Mexico, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, where he witnessed the 2022 US-backed coup in Peru, and met with ousted leftist president and relatives of the victims of state repression, and interviewed foreign diplomats and government officials on different occasions. So just really want to appreciate you, Comrade Paulo. And I think there is a clip that you want to show as a part of your, presentation. So if you just want to let our AV team know when that time is right. But I want to welcome you, Comrade Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you, Chair Mwesi. And I want to extend that solidarity from Peru to Venezuela. We have a right-wing narrative that the Venezuelans are criminals and such, just like the same narrative that they have here in the belly of the beast, how they portray migrants from Mexico, Venezuela, and so forth. And so we as a collective reject that. We understand the anti-imperialist line and the schemes that the Trump administration, the U.S. foreign policy has been against Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. And so to talk about the struggle in my home country in Peru, I first want to say that as colonized peoples from the global South, we know how it feels to have our struggles set aside in the periphery by the white left in the US. The Uhuru movement, on the other hand, gives the voiceless a voice, makes the unheard heard, and the unseen seen. The Uhuru movement is for all freedom fighters in our collective struggle for liberation, which extends to the original peoples all over the world. And so our compatriots in the motherland back in Peru recognize that today's uprising across the country represents the 533-year strong anti-colonial resistance of the colonized peoples of Abya Yala, also known as the Americas. And so we recently saw a huge people's victory with the ouster of Dina Boluarte, who ruled the country for almost 3 years since the US-backed coup against Pedro Castillo, who was illegally removed by the same Congress that poetically and justly removed Dina Boluarte on the 9th of October. And so we are still in the streets demanding real change. And what that change looks like is not with a new interim president who is directly from the Congress, the same Congress that ousted Pedro Castillo, that has been pushing impunity laws for themselves and the criminals from the previous dictatorship of Alberto Fujimori. And so we are demanding a constituent assembly, which would change the fundamental aspects of the country's politics from what we have right now, a neoliberal constitution from Fujimori from 1993. This order has kept in place and continued to cement its power because of the mafia-like Congress of the Fujimorist supporters. And so we have been living under this system for a while. And so I have to say that it's very much a deja vu for me, as I've seen, read the history, recent history of Peru regarding the situation where we are now with this interim president, Jose Harry, his name is, and he is he's accused of corruption, sexual abuse, and other scandals he has, and so he is a puppet president that went unpunished for his crimes there. And so this puppet president is very similar to what we had with President Manuel Moreno, who only ruled Peru for 5 years. Not 5 years, 5 days rather. And that was a very short interim presidency because of the people's uprising. And at that time, that was in November 2019, which led to 2 of our compatriots' death in the streets, Inti and Brian. And now we have a new martyr, this rapper Eduardo Mauricio Ruiz Sainz, who's a 32-year-old. He was murdered by the state by police infiltrators in the streets who disguise themselves as protesters, as civilians to instigate violence and such. We have seen that this is just a continuation of the dictatorship of Dina Boluarte, of the Congress in actuality, who masterminded everything. And so the reason why they ousted Dina Boluarte, the butcher of the Andes, was because she has a lot of corruption scandals. She's under investigation for crimes against humanity, for the massacres of at least 80 people when she usurped the power after Congress unconstitutionally removed Pedro Castillo, who is still serving a prison sentence, arbitrary prison sentence, lawfare, for over 1,000 days, and so we are seeking his release. And we're struggling for his freedom and restitution. His restitution is important, as this would make sense right now, and not another undemocratically elected person in charge. We haven't had this a democratically elected president since Pedro Castillo. We've had 7 presidents in 9 years, and it's not because of the Peruvian people's fault. It's the system itself that Congress filled with the allies of Fujimori and his daughter Keiko Fujimori, who are operate like an organized crime syndicate in power, which extends not just the Congress but the judicial and the executive branches. And so the people see that through all these charades that the elites do, the oligarchy do, with that recent impeachment vote to oust Dina Boluarte back in a week ago. And so that's why the people have been fighting continuously, not since September, but years and years in this struggle, because we are understanding that this is a 533 year strong struggle with our same martyrs as Tupac Amaru, Mikael Bastidas, and Jose Carlos Mariátegui. We understand that this is our people struggle from back then and to the present. And I want to conclude to that point.
Uhuru, comrade. Really want to appreciate that presentation, Comrade Paulo from Los Ronderos de las Redes, and just the tremendous work that you have continued to do to help to connect the struggles throughout the Americas. And just want to really salute you, comrade. And I know you'll be with us in the program so we can learn more about this struggle and how it's deepening in Peru and elsewhere. So next I want to welcome up Comrade Harry Simon Salazar. He is the Director for Agitation and Propaganda, or Difusión, with Unión del Barrio, a member of the Central Committee and a dear comrade. And just want to welcome you, comrade, to speak on the Mexican liberation struggle, that front in terms of what we're seeing right now. And just to say that in our PowerPoint, everybody saw a picture with the ICE raids, and those red flags that you saw, those were the flags of Unión del Barrio, the comrades who have been leading this struggle here on the ground within, in Southern California, where it's heavily concentrated in Los Angeles area. So Uhuru, comrade, welcome.
Ooh, Comrade Amazi, it's wonderful to see you, compañera. Much love, and thank you very much for the invitation to participate in this really important and historic panel on your Latin American front of the Uhuru Fightback, Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I really appreciate again the invitation, and I'm honored to be a part of this discussion. I'm a member of Unión del Barrio. If for those of you who don't know or aren't aware of our work, we're an independent, working class people's party dedicated to struggling on behalf of La Raza, living within the current borders of the United States. We've been struggling since August 29th, 1981, under the name Unión del Barrio. But we trace our historical fight all the way back to 1492 with the initial arrival of the European colonialism to this part of the world, as well as 1519 to the fall of La Gran Tenochtitlan. 1848, the initial occupation of these territories. I'm located right now in San Diego, California. But when U.S. colonial and imperial interests seized these territories in 1848 under the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and up to the present. But Unión del Barrio has been around since 1981. We've had struggles to protect workers, barrio youth, mujeres, prisoners, as well as movements to resist police. And more recently, we've become really central to the struggle to resist migra ICE terror, ICE kidnappings in especially in Southern California. As an organization, we unconditionally uphold the right of self-determination of indigenous peoples and support the struggle for freedom of anti-colonial freedom of all of our sisters and brothers throughout Nuestra America. We're not a nonprofit or a charity-based organization. I want to highlight that our work is completely self-financed as we seek to establish and consolidate ourselves as a revolutionary party for raza liberation. Lo que se puede decir en español, una unión de los pueblos de Abya Yala, Anahuac, Nuestra América, una unión obrera, consciente y organizada que lucha por su liberación dentro de las actuales fronteras de los Estados Unidos. As Unión del Barrio, we identify La Raza as an anti-colonial working class, multiracial, multi-ethnic, gender, race neutral identity that unifies people within the United States and the colonies who are of indigenous and Latin American heritage. We see and understand La Raza as a political term, a sociocultural term that is the broadest possible collective identity that is comprehensible to the working class people of North, Central, and South American and Caribbean heritage. La Raza is similar. It's used, it's most often recognized as part of the movements of the 60s and 70s. But on the East Coast, and having lived for some time on the East Coast, we also call ourselves primos, hermanos, compas, gente, pueblo. It's the collective barrio-centered, barrio-facing working class identity centered on our native, our indigenous heritage and our anti-colonial struggle. I want to highlight that the nature of this activity today on the hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition. It speaks very close to home. Unión del Barrio has had a relationship with the Uhuru movement going back to 1984, between 1984 and 1986. The relationship was established. We're talking about 40 plus years of principled unity and solidarity between the African People's Socialist Party in particular and Unión del Barrio, which we're very proud of, that it's an unbroken relationship that's been, rooted in principled solidarity and unconditional unity between comrade organizations. And it really came to a head with the attacks against the Uhuru movement, in particular against Chairman O'Malley, Yeshitela, who we've identified as a key force that's so much has influenced so much of what Unión del Barrio is. In as much as we understand our unity with the Uhuru movement, I do want to highlight, the earlier comments about Sada Shakur, and in particular, yesterday was the 219th year since the murder of Jean-Jacques Dessalines in Haiti, and how much those struggles and those examples of struggle, Sada and Dessalines, and really speak to the liberation struggle and our unity with the Uhuru movement and the fundamental ties, historical, cultural, and emotional ties between our struggles for anti-colonial liberation are unbreakable. And as long as we orientate ourselves and are aware of those historical moments, I think we're going to do all right, and we're going to do more than survive, but we'll win. We're not just going to survive this moment, but we'll win. Speaking to the repression against the Uhuru movement, it was something that concerned us deeply, not just because of our solidarity with the Uhuru movement, but because we understood under the idea of touch one, touch all, which I believe was the phrase that we responded to in our message of solidarity when the Uhuru movement was initially attacked. We felt that it was something that was going to be directed towards us. It was an attack that was against us in as much as they were breaking down doors and breaking windows across the different strongholds of the Uhuru movement. We felt that it was an attack against us as well. And so in that context, we put ourselves on a self-defense footing, on a defensive footing, to prepare ourselves for these attacks. And you'll see that kind of language or those kinds of references represented in many of our congressional documents or in our public positions on these issues. I want to highlight that these attacks are in part and shouldn't be lost on the fact that the attacks now are coming down on Union and against barrios, raza barrios across the U.S. In particular, represented by the ICE raids and ICE enforcement and the violations of various constitutional norms, so-called constitutional norms within the context of the United States. So, being that the compa from Venezuela already spoke, I just want to highlight it shouldn't be lost on us that it isn't just our resources that they're coming after. They're coming after our capacity to resist and our capacity to fight back. That's the fundamental threat. They've been stealing our resources for a long time, but the kinds of attacks that they're launching against us now, and the violation of the Fourth and Fifth Amendments of the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, all of these things that are happening, it shouldn't be lost on us that it's directed against la raza in general within the United States, in particular against the Mexican population, because of the existential threat that they see of our capacity to organize ourselves and liberate ourselves. I know that this first part is an introductory part. I'm going to stop there because I want to honor the time frame of today's event. But I look forward to the question and answer and hearing from our other speakers today.
Thank you, Uhuru Comrade Harry. I just really want to appreciate your overview and your key point about the specific attacks on how we unite, how we organize, how we struggle. I think that's key. That's what this fight back is about. So Uhuru Comrade, Uhuru Compa, and salute to Unión del Barrio. And I just want to take a quick moment to remind everybody who was listening, who was watching, to donate. Our chat moderators are putting it in the chat to go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate to contribute towards the oral arguments for the appeal of the Uhuru 3 fight back. And I just want to thank, two people who have already gone to handsoffuhuru.org/donate to donate. I want to salute Barbara and Penny for your contributions, and we'll take a moment later on to thank our donors specifically. But go ahead, be like Barbara, be like Penny, donate to the fight back, Uhuru. So I'm going to bring up our co-MC to, and we are just a little bit behind on time, but we do want to make sure that all of our speakers have their time to speak. So I do want to allow Paolo to introduce our next speaker, Uhuru.
Let me get this in order. So our next speaker is Barbara Larkham, who I work alongside her at the Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition, which Los Sonderos de las Redes is a part of, as we also extend our solidarity to Nicaragua. And I have, as previously mentioned, I have traveled to Nicaragua and visiting the Afro Nicaraguan communities, the Afro-Indigenous community over there. And so that with the Friends of the ADC, another member of the Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition. And so, Barbara Larkham, you have your camera on?
I do.
Yes. Okay. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Paulo. Thank you for the invitation to speak at this event today, this important event. And as everybody knows, especially if you're in the United States, today is No King's Day here in the United States. And my first thought is that No King's Day is not a broad enough slogan for what we need across the world. We need a slogan of no empires. And so this is something that Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition stands behind, is it's standing against exploitation and oppression of peoples everywhere. The coalition is pleased to work in alliance with the Latin American front of the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition, as it also works with other groups such as the Sanctions Kill Coalition. The Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition is an international coalition of organizations and individuals who are in support of Nicaragua's sovereignty and also recognizing its many achievements. And what could be more important in the work that we all do than communicating? Talking with each other, but also getting the word out to others about the truth as we see it. But there are forces that are working against all of us, which don't want us to be heard. And so it's crucial for us to unite so that our voices are more powerful as we work for justice for all and for a more peaceful and prosperous world. So the coalition then, as I said, is very much in support of the revolutionary government in Nicaragua and their achievements. And our website, which we continually update with news about Nicaragua and about our own activities, is found at nicacoalition.com. And I'm going to try to post in the chat a place that if you wish, you could also join our email list. Let me take just a moment to do that right now. Okay, everyone. Okay, there you have. If you would like to get to know more of us and just have a chance to converse with others who are talking about issues involving Nicaragua, that's where you can do that. So, as I said, we're in solidarity with the people of Nicaragua, which has done so many wonderful things. But the government is not working for the people, but it's working with the people. In fact, its slogan is "the people as president," and it really is true. So I'm going to brag on Nicaragua just a little bit here. Some examples of some of the wonderful things that have been achieved since 2007 when the FSLN came back into the power in the government. They are providing universal and free health care throughout the country with many new or remodeled hospitals. I have written here 77, but in fact, I think a couple more hospitals have even been built since that figure arrived. And also Nicaragua provides universal and free education from preschool through trade school, university, and professional school. I mean, this is something that we in the United States wish we could have, right? Same with free and universal health care. And something that I think is of great interest to this group is that Nicaragua is a pioneer in defending the rights of indigenous and Afro-descendant peoples who have communal title to a third of the national territory on the Caribbean side of the country. Nicaragua is a world leader in gender equality. It ranks first for women in parliament, and it ranks very highly in women's educational achievement and in women in cabinet positions in the government. Nicaragua ranks 8th in the world in renewable energies, with over 72% of its energy coming from renewable sources, while 99% of homes have electricity. Nicaragua builds and provides thousands of good quality, low-cost homes annually. And the Solidarity Coalition did recently host a webinar, which you can find also on our website, nicacoalition.com, having to do with housing programs in Nicaragua as well as in Venezuela. We had a speaker from Venezuela and their wonderful programs too. Nicaragua has an ambitious national plan to fight poverty that exceeds the 2030 UN Sustainable Development Goals. It's reduced poverty by about half since they came into power. Nicaragua has reduced maternal mortality by 80% and infant mortality by 58% since the Sandinistas were elected to the presidency. And Nicaragua has a program to prepare people for disasters like hurricanes, in which 1 million people have already been trained to prepare for such disasters. And every family every school class, every school also is encouraged to develop its own plan to prepare for disasters. And we do have a webinar that's coming up on October 26th to present more information about disaster preparation in Nicaragua and mitigation. And you can register for that webinar at bit.ly/NICA October 26th. I'm going to post that in a moment in the chat as well, in case people would like to attend that. So it's hard for me not to go on and on bragging about achievements in Nicaragua, but the important thing is this. This is what people can achieve when they work together intentionally, sharing their resources rather than trying to exploit one another or creating more inequality. And when the country enjoys some measure of peace and stability. But that progress is threatened for Nicaragua by U.S. imperial policies in which the United States sees all the nations of Latin America and the Caribbean as its backyard, or sometimes it says front yard, but you see the point. They think that they should be able to control what goes on across the entire hemisphere. And also that many elites in the United States see the resources of those countries as rightfully theirs. So these forces don't want anyone to know what's been achieved in Nicaragua and in other countries that have similar policies and have been able to achieve things for their peoples. So they try to prevent us from getting the word out. And they spread lies, which are hard to counter when their resources are so much greater than ours. So their tactics include lawfare, such as that which has been faced by the Uhuru movement, and we've been hearing about that during this webinar. Their tactics also include control of the legacy media and their attempts to control alternative media or to do away with them altogether, and social media. And finally, if those don't work, they resort to violence, and they've been doing much more of that lately as well. So free speech is important to us to get the word out about Nicaragua's positive achievements and also to counter all of the lies. And there are many lies being spread about Nicaragua by the United States and other imperial powers, that Nicaragua is a dictatorship. And I'll just point out again that in a country that has the people as president as its slogan, and which encourages as much participation in all aspects of government as Nicaragua does, it's pretty easy to see that that's simply not true. Another lie is that it's unsafe to travel to Nicaragua. The claims are that there is high crime and that healthcare is poor. Nicaragua is, in fact, probably the safest country in Central America to travel in, and people who go there are amazed at how anybody could claim otherwise. And healthcare is excellent in Nicaragua. And the people who are opposed to Nicaragua are still claiming that during the attempted coup in Nicaragua in 2018, that the U.S., which the U.S. funded, they claim that the Nicaraguan government killed several hundred of its own people. But this claim has been debunked over and over again by research and by what we see happening on the ground since that coup was quashed. So our work is ongoing to support Nicaragua, but it's far from just being about Nicaragua. We see many of the same factors playing out across the entire hemisphere, and so we endeavor to work in alliance with all groups that are opposing imperialist policies and practices. Nowhere is that more important than Venezuela right now because of the threats that Venezuela is facing. We must all lift our voices loudly to defend Venezuela's right to govern itself as its people choose and to counter the lies that we're hearing. This is important for Venezuela, but it's also important for Nicaragua and Cuba because all three of these countries and others are being targeted by the United States. And if Venezuela falls, it's going to be harder for the rest of us to continue with that defense. So the Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition has put out a public statement opposing U.S. aggression against Venezuela. And over the past week, that statement has been published in a number of sources, and it can also be found on the front page of our website. Again, that's nicacoalition.com. So free speech is crucial for all of our work, for all of us. So let's join together and continue to exercise our right to free speech and defend it and one another vigorously. I thank you.
Uhuru. Thank you so much, Barbara. Yes, thank you, comrade, for just that, small look in terms of what, self-determination looks like in the hands of the people. And just, as we, can all imagine what, just the extent to what we can do without the intervention, when we are free. And so thank you so much, comrade, for, speaking on behalf of the, people of Nicaragua. And I just want to salute you for your support, Barbara. And so glad that you're here. And we have our next speaker that we're going to bring up for today. And Barbara, we hope that you two will also stay with us and, for the Q&A. And I want to welcome up our next speaker, Cesar Omar Sanchez, who was one of the 6 co-chairs of the National Network on Cuba. This comrade is, has been a very profound supporter of the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition in the, New York, New Jersey area. We just want to salute you, and I'm going to turn it over to you. And I think you have some videos, so if you want to give our MC a cue about when to cue those up. Uhuru.
Sure. Can everybody hear me? I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Perfect. But I'm going to start off with Spanish, introduce myself in Spanish, then I'll go in English. And then after that, if you could just slightly play those 2 videos, they're 1 minute each. And I highly appreciate it. Bueno, saludos a todos. Mi nombre es César Omar Sánchez, uno de los 6 copresidentes de la Red Nacional sobre Cuba. Quiero expresar mi sincero agradecimiento al movimiento Uhuru por organizar este importante semanario de discusión sobre lo que está sucediendo en este momento en América Latina. Pero lo más importante, cómo unirnos y luchar en solidaridad. Greetings to all. My name is Cesar Omar Sanchez, one of the 6 co-chairs of the National Network on Cuba. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to the Uhuru movement for organizing this important webinar on what is happening throughout Latin America. But of course, what's very important is how to unite and to fight back in solidarity. And with that, I am, if possible, you could play those 2 video clips. Gracias.
No! Cuba sí bloqueo, no! Cuba sí bloqueo, no! Cuba sí bloqueo, no! Cuba sí bloqueo, no!
Hi, I'm Shaquille Fontenot, one of the co-chairs of the National Network on Cuba, and we're here at the 9th Continental Solidarity Conference in solidarity with the Cuban people. We have met comrades from all across the Caribbean who have exchanged ideas on how we can tackle the U.S. imperialist beast. So although we are fighting within the belly of the beast, it's such a wonderful opportunity for us to connect with comrades from all over the Caribbean who have expressed not only their solidarity, but their techniques, their operational structures, and ways that we can continue to be in alignment with the Cuban people. It's such an honor to be here. It's such an honor to be able to exchange with these comrades and to grow in our community.
Hoy, 12 de octubre, desde México nos encontramos en este 9º encuentro continental de solidaridad con Cuba. Venezuela dice presente. Odalí Monzón, desde el Movimiento de Solidaridad de Venezuela-Cuba, nos encontramos como mujeres de la vanguardia, una vez más dándoles las gracias a Cuba por tan gran esfuerzo que hace para ser solidario ante el mundo, ante bloqueo y sanciones impuestos por Estados Unidos, el gobierno de Estados Unidos. Mas, sin embargo, ha sido como Venezuela en resistencia permanente, porque lo que nos ha unido más que nunca es la lucha por nuestra independencia. Por eso le agradecemos primeramente a Dios y sobre todo a Fidel, a Chávez, quienes unidos lucharon para la solidaridad de nuestras patrias. Y en lo personal le agradezco a Cuba porque cuando la vaguada en Venezuela, en La Guaira, el primer país que llegó para dar esa muestra de solidaridad fue Cuba. Por eso, hoy más que nunca, le agradecemos a los pueblos del mundo la solidaridad que es retribuida de la misma manera como Cuba lo hace con los pueblos del mundo. Aquí en México, Puerto Rico, en cada país está la gota de Cuba llevando sus médicos, llevando sus orientaciones, lo que significa una lucha de independencia. Y hoy en Venezuela y en el mundo estamos conmemorando un hito histórico, como es el Día de la Resistencia Indígena, así como nuestros antepasados lucharon por la patria contra el yugo español, quien vino a Venezuela a imponerse. Hoy nosotras luchamos por la libertad, la independencia y la soberanía, de la mano de Cuba y de los países del mundo, quienes han sido muestra de solidaridad ante cualquier agresión, amenaza, bloqueo, sanciones. Nos une la lucha de la independencia de nuestra patria. Que viva Cuba, que viva Venezuela, que viva la solidaridad integral en todos los países del mundo.
Thank you. Thank you so much for playing those two videos. There's so much to say, and I want to thank all the panelists for their very powerful speeches, very insightful information. Why solidarity, international solidarity is very important. We just came back from Mexico City. There was actually the 9th Continental Committee Coalition Solidarity Conference for Cuba, held in Mexico City, organized by numerous organizations in solidarity with Cuba. And it was such a very powerful, very great event, which we were able to engage and have fantastic conversations to continue to build that solidarity, with the whole purpose of ending this blockade, this brutal blockade that Cuba has endured for more than 65 years. I cannot stress this enough. And yet Cuba, despite all the economic hardship that they're going, despite the US empire that is just really trying to, in every way possible, destroy it, Cuba has stood their ground, has continued to show international solidarity, has continued to support their own people, providing people with the basic needs, healthcare, education, housing, something that here in the United States, in the belly of the beast, we do not have. One of the reasons that a lot of people does not understand is that the US empire are trying to destroy Cuba. Why? Because Cuba provides an alternative way of thinking, a revolutionary way of thinking. And the last thing that this empire wants is that we co-opt that we emulate that same way of thinking, that same revolutionary morality way of thinking. I think it's also important the relations that Mexico has with Cuba. Mexico always had a very tight relationship with Cuba. In fact, a very fun fact, historical, the Granma yacht, for those of you who don't know, that famous iconic boat that took Fidel and Ernesto Che Guevara to Cuba, was actually launched right there in Tuxpan, Mexico, I believe in November 25, 1956, yes. It was right there, was the catapult of the beginning of the Cuban Revolution. Cuba has so demonstrated the whole world what true internationalism is. Internationalism, it really is. If you look back at a time when the southern part regional of Africa and South Africa was going to apartheid and under a colonial rule, it was Cuba that actually went and supported them, Very famous documentary that I really recommend seeing is actually from one of my dear friend and comrade, Nagash Abdurrahman, Cuba and Africa. It was actually posted on the PBS channels as well. It's called cubaandafrica.com. I will provide that in the chat. A few other things I want to highlight too, because there's so much I want to talk about, but I just want to be mindful on the time that we have right now. But, I think that as I'm talking, in this virtual screen you see in front of me, or you might be listening while you're in your car or driving or you're multitasking, it's very important. More than ever, we have to unite. We have to continue to struggle, just like Cuba did. We have to continue that same revolutionary spirit. We got to continue to make connection, collaborate one another. We have to reach out to one another, and I want to end it too that just like our dear sister and comrade Assata Shakur, who died, a free Black woman. She died as a free Black woman, a revolutionary sister. You know, there was no way that she was going to be in the belly of the beast and rot in jail. No. Cuba took her in because she knew that Cuba would support her, and the Cuban people know that she was a revolutionary comrade that needed support. So with that, I want to thank everyone here. Feel free to reach me. You can reach us at nnoc.org, and I will drop all the information links onto the chat. Again, thank you so much. Thank you, Amalia Yeshatella. Thank you, Penny Hess. Thank you, Jesse Neville. Thank you, my dear sister, Mwezi Odam. Thank you all, and everybody else. The Burning Spears, thank you so much. Fantastic, the whole media crew. And again, you know, power to the people. Revolución para siempre.
Cuba sí, bloqueo no, Uhuru, comrade, Cesar, really powerful presentation. I really want to appreciate those videos that you showed as well. And just, you know, reminding us of the, you know, solidarity that, you know, Cuba has always shown. And just really want to salute you, comrade, and the work of the National Network on Cuba and all of the Cuba solidarity work that is happening, you know, as a necessary, you know, front and tool, you know, in this anti-colonial struggle. So thank you so much, comrade. And I hope that you will also stay on with us. And we are getting ready to bring on our next speaker, Roxana. But before we do, we just, one of the comrades wanted to, and I don't know if our AVs got my message in time, but okay, yes, we got the best team. This was a video that Comrade Paulo wanted to show during his presentation on Peru. It's just a quick 45-second video. We didn't want to miss this, and then we'll go to our next speaker, Uhuru.
Pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El 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 pueblo.
Uhuru. The people united will never be defeated. That's what you heard right there on that really powerful video. Thank you, comrade, for, you know, allowing us to, you know, include that in this, you know, in this program. So I'm going to turn it over actually to another one of our committee members, Comrade Ann, who will introduce themselves as well. Comrade Ann is located in Ecuador and was, you know, played a very significant role in bringing on our next speaker, Roxana Tanguila of the Quíos Nation in Ecuador. So I will turn it over to Comrade Ann. The floor is yours, Comrade, and let me know if you're still there. Okay, I see you coming on.
Uhuru.
Uhuru,
So yes, I have been a member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party for over 25 years, raising white people's reparations to the African community and organizing support for the programs of the APSP from the white community. This organization taught me the importance of real solidarity beyond just well-wishing. Real solidarity is understanding that as someone who comes from the colonizer nation, if I want to join humanity, I must disavow my loyalty to the system of colonialism that created the wealth that I enjoy, and take it a step further by returning resources to those who were stolen, they were stolen from. I currently live in Ecuador in a small town in the Amazon. And it was this understanding from the party that I've been supporting the resistance of the indigenous people of Ecuador against the current colonial oppression by the government. I've been helping to raise funds to bring resources to the general strike in the small town where I live. So I want to welcome Roxana Tanguilla from the Quíos Nation in the Amazon. We're honored to have you here, Roxana, to tell us about the current struggle of the indigenous groups of Ecuador against colonial oppression. And we thank you so much for speaking to us. Quiero dar la bienvenida a Roxana de la Nación Quíos de la Amazonía. Es un honor para nosotros contactarte, Roxana, sobre la lucha actual de los grupos indígenas de Ecuador contra la opresión colonial. Muchas gracias por hablar con nosotros hoy.
Uhuru. And I know, I think we've sent, and I know, Comrade Ann, you did mention that there's like some thunderstorms or some weather, so we may have some slow ups. But hey, there she is.
¿Cómo están?
Bienvenidos. Uhuru.
Una presentación en el teléfono porque estoy como en la comunidad. Nosotros como comunidades indígenas siempre andamos en luchas constantes. Y bueno, yo les había preparado un video súper pequeñito que esperemos que se pueda reproducir. Y bueno, creo que no sé si se puede. A ver,
Si la convenía con las bases, todos hemos levantado es porque existe una agenda. Cuando se hizo la alianza política en la segunda vuelta, pero hay que ser consciente. En ese momento, cada presidente empezó a elaborar sus
Bueno, creo que trying to find her. Yeah, go ahead. Continuar.
pero voy a continuar. A ver, aquí está. Tengo un video pequeño.
Desde el norte hasta el sur tienen presentado su propuesta al gobierno.
No sé si se está compartiendo.
Okay, let me see if we can make her co-host. Maybe is that what?
Con todo, creo que no puedo abrir el documento, pero nosotros en la Amazonía ecuatoriana también sufrimos como ahora desde parte del gobierno una represión de los derechos vulnerables a los pueblos indígenas y es bastante complicado luchar por los derechos, ¿no? Entonces, estamos en ese proceso y nos da como parte desde el gobierno, tratamos de no estar en la misma forma de cómo el gobierno quiere con nuestras comunidades indígenas, quiere incumplir con los derechos. Incluso el gobierno actual menciona que la naturaleza no tiene derecho. Entonces, para nosotros como comunidades indígenas, para nosotros es preocupante porque nosotros tenemos una constitución que nos ampara los derechos de los pueblos y nacionalidades y también la naturaleza. Entonces son derechos que el gobierno quiere eliminar de la constitución. Y entonces esa lucha es constante para nosotros en los diversos territorios con las diversas nacionalidades. Y en la actualidad estamos pues pasando con una cuestión del paro y que estamos en resistencia. Ya igual hay una provincia en la que el gobierno mató a 3 compañeros indígenas y se ha vuelto muy racista la forma de cómo el gobierno está actuando con nuestras comunidades indígenas. Incluso me ha mencionado que las comunidades indígenas tenemos que salir de nuestros territorios. Entonces, en este tiempo, el capitalismo o la derecha de un gobierno tiene el objetivo de destruir la naturaleza y en la Amazonía tenemos más de 12 o 13 nacionalidades que representamos a los diferentes pueblos y cada uno de nosotros tenemos nuestra cosmovisión, nuestra identidad cultural. Entonces, para nosotros como pueblos indígenas es bastante duro porque a veces nosotros tenemos un recurso más de bosque o selva y no pensamos en el recurso económico de crecer económicamente. Entonces, estamos en la actualidad luchando. El día de hoy estamos en una reunión muy importante porque el gobierno también busca desvincular o dividir a los pueblos indígenas para que no luchemos por nuestros derechos. Entonces, incluso el gobierno ha regalado un bono a las comunidades indígenas por un buen tiempo, por un lapso demasiado poco, para dentro de esa campaña a sobornar a la gente indígena y como nuestra gente indígena no está con el pensamiento de lo que va a ocurrir, con lo que vaya a hacer el gobierno. Ahora el gobierno está haciendo una campaña de sobornar a la gente indígena. Entonces es una lucha tan difícil porque cuando la gente indígena que analizamos como profesionales, nos asustamos de cómo el gobierno quiere dividir a la gente. Es bastante difícil la lucha de ahora. Hemos estado al frente de mujeres desde varios espacios para que la gente pueda despertar y decir, este gobierno está matando vidas, este gobierno quiere matar la naturaleza y este gobierno quiere matar la identidad cultural de los pueblos indígenas. Entonces, hemos estado en marcha, igual Anne, que está aquí también en esta conferencia. Hemos estado varios días en la lucha en resistencia. Parece que ya un poco la gente nos escucha y estamos queriendo no perder los derechos de la gente indígena, no queremos perder los derechos de la naturaleza que ha sido para nosotros el ser humano y la naturaleza tiene vida. Entonces estamos en este proceso muy importante de la lucha y queremos fortalecer esto que para nosotros como pueblos indígenas nos sentimos discriminados de un gobierno que tiene un pensamiento capitalista y queremos todavía es tan difícil en Ecuador tener un presidente indígena porque el racismo es bastante fuerte, pero estamos en esa lucha en la actualidad que queremos fortalecer. La Amazonía es explotada de muchos recursos de madera, de petróleo, de la minería y un montón de minerales más. Estamos en ese proceso y me ha dado un gusto de poderles compartir igual la lucha que nosotros hacemos, especialmente como mi persona, como Roxana Tanguila. Siempre estoy publicando de lo que hacemos en nuestras páginas de las nacionalidades como la CONAI, ECOPENAI y mi nacionalidad, nación originaria Quijo. Siempre publicamos lo que pasa, porque a veces también las redes sociales ha hecho que la comunicación no llegue como estamos en ese proceso y queremos fortalecer y todavía seguir luchando por los derechos de la naturaleza y las comunidades indígenas. De eso de mi parte, espero más adelante poder compartirles. En la actualidad hemos estado con muchas actividades esta semana y para mí es bueno compartirles y también como indígenas es tan difícil salir a la lucha porque no tenemos recursos. Muchas comunidades indígenas viven lejos y llegar a buscar, a luchar a la ciudad es tan difícil porque no todos tenemos el recurso necesario para salir a los paros, a la resistencia. Entonces, incluso el gobierno bloqueó muchas cuentas de las organizaciones indígenas de las que recibían fondos para poder movilizar a la gente. Entonces, la estrategia del gobierno es prácticamente eliminar todos los derechos de la gente indígena. Ha hecho muchas estrategias para dividirnos, para separarnos de la identidad, separarnos del idioma, y cada gobierno entrante siempre deja haciendo daño a las comunidades indígenas. Entonces, nosotros como pueblos indígenas todavía queremos mantener la unidad y espero que más adelante con estas luchas y resistencias podamos seguir cuidándonos como identidad, cuidándonos como agua, como una montaña, como ríos. Y no sé si es que alguien tiene alguna pregunta, igual me puede preguntar. Tal vez hay personas que hablan español. No sé hablar mucho inglés, me es complicado, pero creo que más adelante.
Wow. Uhuru, and I didn't know if you wanted to add anything, but I just really want to appreciate Comrade Roxana's statement. We do have a comrade here providing some translations also in the chat, but just want to say that, we stand in solidarity, with you and the compañeros who are in that meeting right now and the people of Ecuador who are, struggling, to restore and to take back power, and that this is a women's-led revolution. So is it sin mujeres no hay revolución? So thank you, Roxana. And Anne, did you want to add anything, Comrade Uhuru?
Uhuru. I just want to really thank Roxana for coming. She is a powerful leader in the local fight back right now. I did want to say a few things. In the in Ecuador, the indigenous communities get together and they make decisions together. And there was a breach of that by one small faction, but now it's come back together in a united fight. There are currently 40 roads are blocked in 7 provinces. And I just want to tell people, you'll see big fires in the roads. This is not violence. This is the traditional way of the indigenous people blocking the roads. So it's not destruction of property, but it's stopping the country from moving forward until they're listened to. Right now, the president is attempting to change the Constitution. He wants there to be no public education, which is just amazing to me that that could even be on the docket. He wants to take away the sovereignty of the territories. This too is just unprecedented in this modern time. Because here in the territories, just like in the indigenous reservations in the United States, there's sovereignty. The police and the military can't come there, supposedly. Same here. They have no authority and they're not allowed on those lands, and they have to consult. But now he wants to change the law so that that consultation is not required. He wants to take away, Ecuador is the only place on the planet that has Mother Earth, the waters, the air have rights as beings, have right to be clean and not exploited. They want to close that down. And then lastly, I'll just say some of the things that the government is doing. They tried giving $2,000 bonuses to a lot of the people who are on Social Security here. And of course, that bought silence from people. So that's really bad. People who are just trying to live, right? And then they've killed already 4 or 5 people have been killed and many people have been injured. This is the first time in a long time that the oppression has been quite so intense. It's been like this before, but now it's like they have permission from the United States and Israel. The way that the world has responded to that, it's like now the gloves are off for them. So I just really want to say that I unite with the indigenous people here and will continue to fight in solidarity with them, as I have with the African People's Socialist Party for the last 25 years. And I'm so grateful to have places to take a human stand.
Uhuru, Comrade, and thank you so much for that overview. And I just want to appreciate you too, Comrade, for putting in the chat much of what Comrade Roxana was sharing with us. She did have to leave because she was having some poor connection, but Comrade Roxana is also in touch with one of somebody who is assisting with interpretation with her via WhatsApp. So she will be able to still, participate and, hear more about what is happening in our, with our next, main speaker. So, wow, I just really I see you there, co-host. I know we have to move the program, Comrade Paulo, but it's just been a really powerful, webinar so far. And I just want to see if there's, let me just come right back to here so we can, I just want to just kind of take a moment to just appreciate those who have joined us, where people are tuning in from, and, as we move to our next speaker. So, Uhuru, Comrade. So I just wanted to, thank everybody who has been joining us here on Zoom and, many others who are on Facebook and on YouTube as well. I want to salute those who have already gone to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. I want to thank Jan. I want to thank MQ for your donations. I think I can give a quick update on how much we have raised so far. So far, we have raised, let me see here. Tell me if this is correct, $405 towards our goal of 1,000. So we have 595 left to raise for today's webinar. So that's excellent. I want to really salute everybody who has helped us get almost halfway towards our goal. So Uhuru, And one thing I want to do is just quickly announce where some people, some of our supporters are tuning in from. We have comrades tuning in from San Diego, from Palmdale, from Ecuador, from Tacoma, Washington, Toronto, Canada, from occupied Hawaii, from Washington, D.C., and also from Louisville, Kentucky. So thank you, those of you who have, joined us. And we also have somebody who's on YouTube who is watching from Uruguay, says, what important event, long live revolutions and the free sovereigns people, vivan las pueblos libre. Also comrades tuning in from saying long live the Bolivarian revolution, and just, brilliant, presentations, and saying love, peace, and unity. This is from Shabaka on YouTube. Love, peace, and unity with our comrades of Cuba and Mexico. Forward ever, my family, Uhuru, unity and organization. So this has just been really powerful. And I want to mention one more comment that I saw here before we move on. This is Richard Ross Schiller, who is in occupied Hawaii, or in Honolulu. He says, thank you to the webinar speakers, the organizers and technicians, and all the participants for your courageous leadership and endurance. Solidarity from occupied Hawaii. So thank you, comrades. Paulo, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, but did you just want to say anything, kind of before we wrap up, anything briefly before we go into our
Uhuru.
next speaker? Uhuru.
Just want to salute your work here, and Comrade Mwezi for being the MC here and the main MC, and to salute to all our speakers, some who had to go, but we want to accept any more questions that we could answer. And yes, let's get to our next speaker.
I'm actually glad you said that. There is one question that I'll just even state probably before our next speaker, because in case we do run time on question and answer, I think this does speak to everything. And so thank you, Comrade Paulo, to say that there was a question that, came in during the registration for Zoom, asking about what do we see as the most, this is from Felipe Noguera, who asked, what do we see as the most effective and sustainable method to achieve unity among the oppressed, particularly African and Latin American communities in the North, South, Central America, and the Caribbean, especially as the oligarchy is actively dividing us? And yes, how can progressives and Pan-Africanists most effectively prevent the imminent attacks of Trump against the people of Venezuela and keep the Caribbean a safe zone of peace? So thank you, Comrade, for that question. And I want to introduce our next speaker, and, who can also help to open that up. I want to welcome up Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Chairman Omali Yeshitela is, the leader of the African People's Socialist Party, the leader and founder of the Uhuru movement. And, it's important to say this, that much of what you hear me say, and you also heard Comrade Ann earlier, who is a force, under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party as the Solidarity Front, is the theory of African internationalism, of which Chairman Omali Yeshitela is the founder, and has deepened the question of anti-colonial struggle in this period, to a point that we are able to, have a situation where an organization, much years after the 1960s, the African People's Socialist Party was attacked because of its position on the question of colonialism and the work that it does in order to build, economic and political, development for the African community and African people everywhere. And so, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, I want to welcome you and appreciate you for being on this call, and also the, founder and creator of the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition as well. So, Uhuru, Chairman.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
First, I really want to express my appreciation to you, Comrade Mwezi, and to Paulo, co-hosting this particular event. It is an extraordinarily significant event, we believe. And I say this not only as the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, but also as one of the Uhuru Three, the three of us from our movement who were attacked by the United States government, and using drones and armored vehicles and rifle carrying military forces who were identified as the FBI in 2 cities in 2 different states in this country, 7 different properties that came under assault. And I just want to say that the Hands Off Uhuru process is one that we determined early on. We were not going to take a defensive posture, that we saw this struggle that we were involved in, that we had to initiate a counter-offensive, because what had happened and what continues to happen even now, as we talk about all of the attacks and threats of attacks against our peoples, our movements in various places around the world, is a response by the imperial powers to the struggle or potential struggles of the people to reclaim our resources, our dignity, and everything that has been taken from us in this colonial process. I want to say that that we do not see the struggle that in Ecuador and Cuba and Mexico and St. Louis, Missouri, throughout the Caribbean, etc., as separate struggles. We see that we recognize that struggles might have different features depending on where they're located, based on political and economic conditions that might be specific to those particular areas. But we have concluded a long time ago that we're involved in a single fundamental contradiction against a colonial mode of production. That some of us have been familiar with the concept of modes of production. If we've studied socialism and communism and recognize that people societies are organized around specific ways to achieve what's necessary for their existence, food, clothing, and shelter, and what have you. And it's the development and work in this process that contributes to the development of the societies themselves. And some people are familiar with the concepts of modes of production. They talk about the feudal mode of production and capitalist mode of production, etc. But what we're saying is that there is a colonial mode of production that upon which provided the foundation for, first of all, extracting Europe, allowing Europe to move from the desperate circumstances under which Europeans, what came to be known as European, were existing. Something that lasted, this feudal system that lasted for nearly 1,000 years of poverty, despair, and what have you, and no meaningful development. And then 600 years ago, a little more, Portugal struck out and assaulted Africa, initiated this process of attacking Africa, initiated the process of capturing African people and forcibly dispersing African people around the world. And in this process, we saw for the emergence for the first time in human history of a single world economy. It was no longer just an economy of Spain or England or someplace like that. It was an economy that linked the entire world together. And some people have recognized this economy as a capitalist economy, but the fact is it was colonialism. It was the colonial mode of production. It was the colonial, the imperialist, the empire of the various, what came to be the various European states, assaulting our conditions of existence, our lives, and what have you, in various places around the world that gave birth to what we now call Latin America or South America. There was no such thing. There were people, indigenous peoples living in all of these different places, and most often with extremely high levels of development that had occurred beyond anything. When the Europeans, when the Spaniards first got to what is known as Mexico, they were astounded by the development. I think Mexico City alone had more than 1 million people living there and had built the city on a lake. It was an extraordinary, they created this city on a lake, an extraordinary, and this was something that was written in the diaries of the conquistadores, the people who came to steal the land of the people and committed very horrible offenses against the people there. The point that I'm making is that this was a part of the process that created a single world economy. The fact that Africa came under assault by Portugal and we were forcibly dispersed as African people around the world also meant that the African Revolution, the response to this attack by Portugal, the response to the conditions that were imposed on us, the African Revolution itself was dispersed around the world. So we see from the African People's Socialist Party that not only are we fighting for the liberation, total liberation and unification of Africa, but we are part of the revolution of the Americas, what is now called the Americas. We are part and parcel, and in deep ways, and not just not only ideologically, but also so much by blood. So we occupy the space, and I think it's really important when we talk about the colonial mode of production. For example, we had never met a Nicaraguan when we united with the Nicaraguan Revolution. We had never met a Nicaraguan that we were conscious of being a Nicaraguan, but we jumped in right away. We organized in the San Francisco Bay Area, the first mass organization in defense of the people of Nicaragua and supporting the FSLN. The first one, we organized it and brought people together because we understood that that was part of our movement, part of our revolution, because it was, and it was the liberation of the people of Nicaragua was a major blow to the colonial social system that held us all in bondage. If we can win in Nicaragua, we could win, generally speaking. When I went to Nicaragua, not too long after the revolution, to the International Conference in Solidarity with Nicaragua, how was it? When I went there were hundreds of people from around the world. Si Nicaragua venció, El Salvador vencerá. We understood that Nicaragua has won. We can all win. And that's what this was all about. I was there when General Haig, who had been made Secretary of State of the United States, had declared that henceforth that we will not have this discussion about freedom fighters when we look at Nicaragua, when we look at people fighting in other places, that they would be characterized as terrorists. Haig did that under Ronald Wilson Reagan, who was one of the initial Make America Great Again guys who preceded the existing president of the colonial empire right now, the United States. And so they were determined that Nicaraguan revolution would not be successful. I met Comandante Daniel Ortega. I met various other forces who were there in Nicaragua. It was after the revolution, the exuberance of the people, the extraordinary experience of the people becoming free, to see teenagers and the 16-year-old teenagers with AK-47s and what have you, providing security at the airport when we arrived, to see banners that were hanging at the airport that looked like they might have been made by those of us in our own movement. And of course, the reason that people were so young who were providing security is because the age. Nicaragua was a young country, a youthful country. So we saw and experienced all of that. And that was, I just want to make the point that we understood right on that it was a part of the same revolutionary movement that we were. I was in Big Mountain around the same time here in the United States, in one of the so-called, in the concentration camps that they call reservations in the United States, where the United States government, notwithstanding what was supposed to be sovereignty and what have you, where the United States government was planning an assault on the people because they had discovered uranium there. And the Diné people had called on people to come and support them in the event of such an assault. And I was there, we were there, because we understood that it's one movement. It just expresses itself in different places and different ways at any given moment in time. And of course, I can't overstate the significance of the relationship with our compañeros y compañeras from Unión del Barrio, which is longstanding, outstanding, and with whom a long time ago, we wanted to forge and try to develop the ideological solidarity in addition to the political solidarity, because our movement was constantly being assaulted by opportunists from what is called the white left, but these are colonial leftists. And I think it's really important for us when we understand the colonial mode of production. It is something that defines all of our relationships. And there are colonizers, and then there are those of us who are colonized. In the same way that slavery is a relationship as well. It's a relationship between those who are enslaved and those who are the enslavers. But it's not just the enslaved over here and the enslavers over there. It's one relationship. And there's a dialectic there that connects us all. And so that's part of what we think is really important for us to understand, that we engage in the same struggle, that we don't have to get a phone call stand up in solidarity with the people in Nicaragua, stand up in solidarity with the people in Iran, stand up in solidarity with the indigenous people who are being threatened even now on a daily basis, living in these concentration camps. We find our ways to do that. And I think that it's extremely important for us to recognize that the way we win, that when we talk about a colonial mode of production or any mode of production, what we're looking at is how society provides for itself, what it sustenance, food, clothing, and shelter. And when we look at a colonial mode of production, when we look at colonialism, the colonizer makes the law. The colonizer doesn't just make the law here in the United States. It makes the law internationally. It prevails everywhere. It is what says what is legal. The question is not so much what is legal. What is legal in Ecuador today in terms of the right of indigenous people? What is legal in Peru today in terms of the rights of the African communities there? The fact is that at any given time, they change those laws because the colonizer makes the law. But I think we have to understand that colonialism itself is illegitimate. Despite the fact that the colonizer makes the law, colonialism is illegitimate, and that is what needs to inform how it is that we move and how we understand that what we are about. So from our perspective, it's really important to fight for all of these rights that we're talking about. It's important for us to talk not just about free speech, because when the Bill of Rights in the United States and free speech in the United States occurred in 1797, I think it was, African people were considered property. These were not rights for us. These were rights for settlers. These were rights for people who themselves had escaped from feudal existence in what is now known as Europe, and wanted to make sure that they were not oppressed anymore by the same kind of system of feudalism that they had escaped from. So they talked about Bill of Rights, but they talked about that even as African people were being under forced labor, being killed and murdered, indigenous people in this country being wiped out. Obviously, the Bill of Rights didn't have anything to do with them. Freedom of speech had nothing to do with them. And what happened has transpired is that when Africans and Mexicans and others who live in the United States talk about what is happening to us, what the state is doing to us, we often hear reply from settlers, from white people who are good people, nice people, etc. Well, you must have done something. Because it doesn't happen to them. This gives them the ability, the settlers, to talk about such things as hidden dictatorship. They talk about capitalism representing a hidden dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. But for the Africans, for the Mexicans, for the indigenous people in these concentration camps, the dictatorship is not hidden. We live with it every day. They roll up in our communities, they get off the streets. They come into our communities with military forces. They bring National Guards. And this is not the first time something like this has happened. National Guards are always there to deal with the colonized peoples of the world. So I just wanted to say that we have to really dig in. And our responsibility, we have to really work where we are. And with the objective, even as we fight for the rights that are supposedly provided under the colonial law. We do this in order to raise the contradictions, heighten the contradictions, and make it necessary for them to face who they are, in fact, as opposed to who they would pretend to be around the world. The same thing that we see happening now with us, that is to say, the Uhuru 3, where the charge is made that somehow, because we were standing up for reparations, freedom for our people, etc., that somehow we were working for the Russians. The same thing happened during the Reagan administration, where James Earl Carter, before the Reagan administration, where James Earl Carter, who was the president preceding Reagan, who was put forth by the Reagan administration in his Make America Great Again kind of thing. He talked about how Carter had lost, quote unquote, our Panama. He used Nicaragua as an example of the bungling things of Carter. He used El Salvador and the fact that people were rising up in El Salvador as the weakness of the Carter administration in order to win his election. As some of you know, he also entered in some kind of deals that brought drugs into our communities, etc., in exchange for guns that were given to reactionaries who were killing people in Nicaragua. So Carter is the one. He put forth Andrew Young as his United Nations. This is unprecedented. An African who is now the U.S. representative of the United Nations. This is extraordinary. And James Earl Carter, a Georgia peanut farmer, did that. And then, and Carter, this was quite effective because it told the peoples around the world who were looking at the United States as being this reactionary place, discriminating against, oppressing African people, etc., see the United States has changed. Carter said, I will never tell a lie to you. He said, trust me, etc. This is the kind of stuff he did. And then he put Young at the United Nations. And then that helped to convince a lot of African people that things are going to get better under Carter. And then what Carter did, he said that these complaints that you hear coming from African people, et cetera, in the face of this wonderful stuff that we are doing is something that's funded by, supported by, promoted by the Soviet Union. In other words, Russia is responsible for that as well. So it's not a matter of which colonizer is the best colonizer. So you have left-wing colonizers and right-wing colonizers, and you just have ordinary colonizers. We are faced with colonialism, and we have a responsibility now, wherever we are, to join hands together, understanding we're fighting a particular mode of production, and understanding that we have to try to achieve power in every block, every street that we live on, every prison block and cell that we are on, every campus, etc. We have to begin to organize to achieve the authority there, because we cannot rely on the bourgeois state to do that. And we have to demand that all the people who are settlers, who are colonizers, who claim to love us, that they have to be able to recognize our rights to do this. And I think it's very important for us to say and recognize that the United States is a settler colony. It is a settler colony, that the Europeans are not indigenous to this land any more than Africans, than they are indigenous to Africa. It's a settler colony, and that's what we're up against. So I just wanted to thank you very, very, very much. And we have to organize, and it's not, we are sort of helping each other. We are helping ourselves. When we fight against the colonial mode of production, wherever it rears its head, whether we have the ability to fight and struggle against them, we must do that. And the critical thing that has to happen is that we have to build where we are. And people need to recognize and be able to recognize that African people are colonized in the United States, and that this colonialism is what we are fighting against right now. So I just want to thank everybody for the incredible unity that you've demonstrated, and thank you for being here. And the truth of the matter is that we will win. In fact, we are winning. And that's the basis of this crisis that you see this system going through, where they cannot even tolerate a discussion, that the crisis is so deep, their system is so fragile, that people having a discussion about reparations is worth an attack by FBI agents of millions of dollars that were spent to do that, and threats of 15-year prison sentences. So just thank you again, comrades. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Wow. Uhuru, Chairman. Really powerful statement, Chairman. I just really want to appreciate your overview of today. And I'm actually going to just, we're making a quick, shift in our program to allow any panelists who would like to respond, Chairman. But I just want to say just a few things to sum up some really key points that you made. And one, just to, unite with what you raised, Chairman, around that this is a struggle against colonialism, and that, if we want to see the end to racism, to, imperialism, the rise of empires, poverty, all types of oppression, we have to unite with the struggle against colonialism. And, one thing that I appreciate you saying, Chairman, is just, again, how fragile this system is, that it cannot tolerate a discussion. Even from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I mean, this is the nature of a social system that, is only able to exert its power through incessant violence, through colonial violence. And I just want to reiterate that point that you made, Chairman, about the law and colonial law, where, and you've quoted this in the past, where you've said, the colonizer makes the law, but colonialism, as you said, is illegitimate. The chairman says it is a forced imposition of authority on a people. It is a forcible theft of self-determination of people that's imposed by forces who are otherwise foreign and alien. That is what colonialism is. And that's a direct quote from Chairman Amalia Chattel, and you heard it again here today. And so I just wanted to see, Chairman, if any of our panelists would like to, respond, briefly before we head on to the next section. We had just that one question, and so I would like to use this time for that. Please raise your hands, comrades, or, come on camera before we, proceed with the program. And I want to thank those who are donating and, supporting this fight back, because as we said, we are helping ourselves, and, we will be victorious. Uhuru.
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 I appreciate Chairman Amali Yeshatel's overview on the situation here happening all over Latin America, as it's reflecting on the resistance against colonialism, not fascism, but colonialism and imperialism, and fundamentally parasitic capitalism as well. Here in Peru, we have many things in the lucha right now, but one of them is that if we don't unite, we die separately. And so we recognize that this is fundamentally a colonial struggle, anti-colonial struggle, and we're seeing repetitions of puppet presidents and so forth. And with 3 years ago, our democratically elected president ousted, and we're still fighting for his freedom. As he said, dealing with lawfare. And so we're facing the lawfare. There were three faces of lawfare. Former presidents like Evo Morales, Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, and so many more have been facing these type of coup efforts by the U.S. Under Obama, under Bush, under Biden, and now Trump again. And so we really need the leadership of Chairman Amalia Chattel in this hemisphere, and to continue further the anti-colonial struggle, and beyond just the what for my instance is seeing how in Peru it's been the deja vu instances of the repetition of the uprising, and then having a new puppet president, and then massacres again, deaths and more martyrs. We have been through that reiteration in 2019 and so many recent years with these seven presidents in 9 years, and that's the failure of colonialism and not the failure of the people, the failure of the colonizers of staying in power. We have a mayor of Lima who's continuing that unity with the U.S. alliance by hosting a vigil to pay homage to Charlie Kirk in Lima, Peru, and this is funded by public taxpayer dollars and soles, and so this is the ridiculous push that the white population in Lima, the Lima elites, the criollos, put on the indigenous colonized peoples who reject that. they have no connection to the white nationalist movement here in the United States, but the European colonizers are pushing that in the European Parliament. They were doing it in their international forums, and so this is their effort to say, we're not in pushing for political violence because we have our martyr Charlie Kirk, but they've always been pushing political violence. We're seeing with the genocide in occupied Palestine. We're seeing that here in the belly of the beast against our African brothers and sisters, our indigenous peoples all over the Americas. And that under the during the 20th century, throughout that period of the banana republics across Central America, all these corporations here to plunder and send hitmen to kill our indigenous leaders, environmental leaders protecting our waters and land. They're doing the same thing right now in Peru as they're doing in the Congo with the open pits to extract the natural resources. And they're polluting the rivers, the Amazon rivers, just like they're doing in Ecuador and Peru with petroleum and other chemicals like mercury to murder our indigenous peoples, have higher cancer rates and so forth. And so, yeah, this all ties to the African People's Socialist Party leadership that we definitely need to raise and speak more about as we're building that solidarity right now. Uhuru.
True. Wow, thank you, Comrade Paulo. Yes, I just want to really unite with that statement and, the leadership of, African, indigenous, and all colonized peoples in this struggle. And if we have anyone else of our speakers, I, want to invite you to take this opportunity to, if you have anything to respond or to add. And if not, please use the chat to, help everybody in the chat know how to reach you, how to, keep in touch. And yeah, so please take that opportunity. And we have our chat moderators who are also reposting some of your links on the online. Okay, great. I see Barbara. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Just a couple of thoughts. I apologize for putting the wrong website earlier. It's nikasolidarity.com, and I can put that in the chat again. Two things occurred to me. One is that before the webinar started, some of the panelists, we were talking about revolutionary love. And I think that one thing that's important as we build a movement and as we work together even more closely on all of these things, exercising our free speech, defending one another, that as we build the movement for that we work to make sure that we're treating one another with love, with respect, so that people feel good about being part of our groups. They feel like they're contributing, they're part of it, they feel cared for. So I guess that's one of the main things. Maybe I'll leave it there, I guess, for now. Thank you for letting me be part of this.
Uhuru. Yeah, I unite with that. And I think that speaks to the quote, and I'll probably misquote it, but Comrade Che Guevara, who said, maybe something around call him foolish, but, a revolutionary is motivated by deep feelings of love or great feelings of love. And that speaks to what, what I heard you just say, Comrade Barbara. So thank you, Comrade. And I see Comrade Jesus with Orinoco. Go ahead, Comrade.
I just wanted to add that we again are in completely unity of thought with the statements of Comrade Jesse Taylor, Chairman Jesse Taylor, and with the Uhuru movement. We believe from Venezuela that the fight is against colonialism and imperialism and capitalism, and also that the fight that each of us are doing right now is completely the same, disregarding wherever we are. And that's extremely important that all of us assume as part of our, line of thought. And I also wanted to highlight something that I forgot to mention, but other panelists talk about, which is that this racial supremacy embedded within colonialism and capitalism also exacerbate petty chauvinistic approaches that are counterproductive if you really want to fight colonialism. And that happened among Latin American countries, and I believe that in other continents that also happen. This petit nacionalism, we call it in Venezuela patrioterismo, which is like a despective way of talking about patriotism, like thinking that your country is better than others. And that also applies for within the belly of the beast from within the US, with these crazy people in the Latino community thinking that Latinos are better than blacks, or the same thing happening with Afro-American communities thinking that they are better than Latinos or Asians or whatever, and falling into the trap of colonialism that wants us to be divided and in that way control us easily. So I just wanted to add that, and thank you again for the opportunity of reiterating our solidarity towards the Uhuru movement and our solidarity towards the U.S. nationals that are trying to give a fight against colonialism there inside the belly of the beast. Un abrazo, compa.
Uhuru.
Wow.
Uhuru.
Thank you, Comrade. Chairman, I see your hand raised, and I did see a hand pop up and went back down. Comrade Harry with Union.
Oh,
So
good.
if you did want, yes. Did you want to go there first, Chairman? Okay.
Good. Come in, Harry. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks, compas. My camera's disabled. It's telling me I can't open it, so I think one of our admins. Oh, here we go. I'm not sure if this is. Oh, there it goes. All right. Uhuru, Chairman, it's wonderful to see you, and it's an honor to be a part of this panel and with and to share this space with you. But I really want to emphasize over just the honor, the personal honor of being on this panel is to really reinforce something that I think it's easy to say on behalf of all of Unión del Barrio, that the clarity and analysis and your lifetime of struggle is something that's deeply influenced all of us within the Unión. We try to emulate it all the time, and in a very clear way, it's something as has been said of other comrades in our struggle. It's something that we aspire to become. That clarity, over time, which is at this point over 40 years, has influenced Unión del Barrio deeply, especially on the question of the colonial mode of production, parasiticism, and the colonial relationship that we're in today, and as it expresses itself on the streets of our barrios. One of the things that's not lost on us as Unionistas, Chairman, and to everybody that's here, is that aside from what the colonial system says in terms of its culture and its critique, and both coming from the MAGA or the supporters of Trump, as well as the detractors, is that it really limits itself to their own kind of priorities and worldview that is rooted in that colonial means of production. That's why you can have people lamenting whether it be Charlie Kirk or Jimmy Kimmel or tariffs or the end of DEI or whatever it is, right? These very specific attacks within this space, or these colonial contradictions within the system itself, at the pedestal of the system. And as Chairman has taught us, the pedestal of the system is where they come out with their long arms and their masks and their military tactics and their flashbang grenades, whether it be on the attack against the Uhuru movement, or whether it be in Venezuela, or whether it be in South Central Los Angeles, or in Pilsen, or in Chicago, or whether it be against Caracas, or in the Caribbean, or whether it be in Palestine. We see that where they carry these things out, and how they act, and where they deploy their violent their resources in terms of advancing violence, that's where the colonial contradiction is most concentrated. And as such, and in turn, that's where the liberation struggle is most concentrated, because that is what we see and what we've learned most clearly from our relationship, our lifelong relationship with the Uhuru movement, is that this system depends. It's parasitic. It cannot survive without crushing our peoples and our people's movements. So for all intents and purposes, it's an unusual spot we're in right now as Unión del Barrio, having had these decades of struggle, and being relatively a small group focused primarily around Southern California. And something that we've been doing for decades, which we picked up not just from the Uhuru movement, from the Panthers, and from liberation struggles, anti-colonial liberation struggles within the occupied territories, within the current borders of the United States, that our community patrols, which were started in 1993, suddenly were catapulted into the national debate as a viable form of resistance, coming and rooting from within our communities. Not only was it catapulted by the colonial system itself as a threat, Josh Hawley's slap order coming from the Senate that came out in June, or the violent detention and arrest of one of our members, but we could say that our struggle as Unión del Barrio was the right thing at the right time, and the people took a step towards us. So right now, it's not just the ideological question that we are trying to get out in front of it, but it's the moral question. The masses of our people are with us, and we haven't felt that in my lifetime as an unionista. I've never seen and felt it to the degree that we feel it today. And I want to reiterate and emphasize that our capacity to be at the right place at the right time with the right experience was fundamentally rooted in our relationship with the APSP, the Uhuru movement in general, and with Chairman O'Malley, your leadership in particular, ideological leadership, as well as your lifetime of struggle. Uhuru, compa, and thank you on behalf of Unión del Barrio and on behalf of our people. Thank you, compa.
Uhuru, compa. I just want to say, we've traveled a lot together, Unión and the party and the Uhuru movement. We were in London together working when we were touring and working to build the African Socialist International. And in fact, we were frightened because Comrade Harry disappeared on us, traveling, on the subways of London and what have you. But I think that the relationship between Mexicans and Africans in particular, this whole question of the wall that they want to talk about. Because once we come to terms with the fact that we're engaged in the same struggle, that wall is our wall. It's one that's going to be deconstructed by the revolutionary project itself from both sides of the border. And we learned tremendously from Unión del Barrio as well. We learned tremendously from Unión del Barrio. In fact, we're trying to plan how to have Unión del Barrio participate in the upcoming Black is Back Coalition conference that's going to be held first part of November, because we want you to teach. Because we have to take space wherever we can. You've done remarkable work, with defending the communities, building the community's response to this kind of repression, and it needs to be something that. And you offered it. You made it something that anybody could get the benefit from this. And we want to try to construct, forums and other things where you can come in and bring that experience and help people learn how to deal with that. So I just want to say that. And I also want to say that I think it's important that we've come to a place now where we recognize that you can be against colonialism. We've seen that. We knew this would happen. There are going to be people who would jump on and be against colonialism, but they're against colonialism as a policy of a particular country, except they're against what Israel is doing in Gaza. And that's can be easy enough to do. They can pick at things about that Israel does badly and kills people and etc. But we're not talking about a policy. I mean, policy is one thing. Portugal, when it first attacked Africa in 1415, it was a policy determination. But what happened was they developed a whole mode of production, went beyond just a policy of Portugal. I mean, listen, I've traveled all over the world. There's no place. I mean, I go to Spain. I go to France. I go to various other places around the world, and I see the same images of Black people having their origin way back then. I go to Holland, where they have this thing about Zwarte Piet, Black Pete, who comes with Santa Claus, when Santa Claus comes off a ship, riding a white horse, dressed like a cardinal or a pope or something like that. And he comes to bring gifts to the good. And then he has a companion, Zwarte Piet, Black Pete. Black Pete travels with him, and he brings coal that he puts in the stockings of the bad. This guy's painted. I mean, these are white people with soot and what have you over their faces. I'm just saying that the thing is that when you look at the development of this process, where the community is much larger than what used to exist in this place that some specific place in Europe. The world economy has made us a common community, and we're linked together, and our understanding of the world is informed by that relationship. And when you look at how we even look at societies, we're talking about an economic base and a superstructure. And a superstructure, you're looking at legal system, you're looking at ideology, you're looking at ideas that's related to this economic base. And what you will see is these ideas spread throughout the colonial system all over Europe, and everywhere the colonizer dominates. You will see niggers, you will see, this stuff that Compa Jesus was talking about. This is a reflection of the philosophy, the ideas and stuff that stems from this mode of production, this economic base of stealing and resources and slavery and what have you. So I want to say that when we look at one of the largest presence of the Garvey movement, one of the largest presence of the Garvey movement was Cuba. Was in Cuba. And it was partially responsible for extraordinary uprisings by African people in Cuba against slavery. But then there's the relationship with Venezuela. We talk about Haiti and Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who put forth the slogan, cut heads and burn houses and what have you, after the treachery that they had experienced there, and who met with Simon Bolivar and contributed to the struggle. We're talking about Venezuela and Bolivarian revolution. We're talking about Haiti too, and we're looking at Compa, one of the first presidents of independent Mexico. Come on, what's his name? There's a province named for him, where you even now find darker Mexicans who are living there. And he actually approached the Haitians to saying that they would help fund Africans from Haiti who will go into Cuba to end slavery, to fight to end slavery. Our relationship has been there. It's always been there. And that's also, as I mentioned, it's blood as well. We are related by blood in addition to this contradiction that has been imposed on us. So I just think that's really important. And I'm sorry if I sound a little breathless. I'm struggling still with a little bit. There's something called the Munich Conference. Please Google this. Munich Conference. It happens every year in Munich, Germany. 2020, a central theme of the Munich Conference was approaching restlessness. Restlessness. And when they talked about restlessness, they were talking about Europe, but they were also talking about America. They were also talking about New Zealand, Australia. In other words, those places where colonialism had settled itself and developed itself, and they were concerned. You hear them ridicule the so-called right-wingers who are talking about you will not replace us, as if this is some backwards kind of stuff that's happening in tobacco chewing, white people someplace else. Listen, this Munich conference was attended by Zuckerberg, was attended by people who are in governments from throughout the world. They were there. And this, representatives from the United States government, I think the vice president may have been there in 2020. And when they're, if not the vice president, certainly somebody who was in the cabinet. So, they're talking about restlessness. They are concerned about the erosion of the colonial mode of production and being able to continue to control the world. And so years ago, I saw them write, was it Fukuyama, who from Foreign Affairs, who wrote, what was it, The Clash of Civilization? And I open it up and I'm reading about it. And the first thing I see is that concern about mobilist demonstrations, I think perhaps in LA or someplace, where the demonstrators were carrying Mexican flags. And that was a real problem for them. So if we don't underestimate ourselves and our significance, as we've been taught to understand our significance, we are peripheral to civilization, to development and what have you. We're central. The colonized people are central. And so I just think that we have to do that. And we can do this without being arrogant or anything like that, but just recognizing where we are located in the structure of the social system. Once we recognize that, then we know how to deconstruct it. We are the ones upon whom this whole social system relies for its existence. And I just refuse to participate. And I think that's what this is all about too. So, and Compa Harry, it were not for you, and Union de Barrio, and my dearest comrade Ernesto Bustillo, who I think is one of the most understated, revolutionary thinkers of the Americas. I never would have had the experience of being there in California and seeing Mexicans who living in caves in the hills and then coming down and working, picking vegetables and fruits for the colonizers, and then going back in the hills with their Safeway bags and stuff like that and to the caves where they will be living from. I never would have had an opportunity to see white people coming to the border and sitting with lawn chairs and everything else, they're there to watch the illegals come across. This helped to inform me in such a very important kind of way, practical way, in the guts and what have you. The whole morality of a vicious social system that can applaud itself for committing these kinds of offenses against human beings. It has to do something very bad to that system, to that people, to the colonizers themselves. But anyway, we're winning. And I just want to express my appreciation to you, to comrades, to Union, and really think that we've been in this relationship for a very long time. Some people may know Robert Williams, 1957, from Monroe, North Carolina, who was the leader of the NAACP in Monroe, North Carolina, who was an ex-Marine. And as the people, Africans were attacked by Klansmen, he armed the people to fight back, and the NAACP fired him. And finally, the government attacked him, and he had to run for his life. And where did he go? Cuba. And what happened in Cuba? In Cuba, they allowed him to set up Radio Free Dixie, a radio station in Cuba, coming from where he was broadcasting to African people in the United States. And the Cubans protected him, set up the radio station, and allowed I don't know what you have to do to block the attempts to keep the signals from reaching the United States, but the Cubans did that. So, there's this long history that's real, dynamic, and it represents this real relationship, and we have to appreciate it very, very, very much. So I know I've spoken too long, too much, but yeah, it's a great relationship. We just have to recognize it and help our people to recognize it. We have to do political education among our people right there in the base. We have to help people understand the colonial mode of production. We have to help people understand that they are not just some flotsam, some forces who are there who things happen to, but that we are central to development, and we can be free people, we can have development, we can produce life for ourselves. Thank you. Uhuru.
Uhuru, wow, thank you. Really want to appreciate this discussion, comrades. Chairman Amalia Chatela, Comrade Harry Simon with Unión del Barrio, Comrade Jesus Rodriguez with Orinoco Tribune, Barbara Larcom with the Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition, Comrade Paulo Cruz Alegui with Los Renderos de las Redes, and Comrade Anne, who was, representing Ecuador, along with Comrade Roxana Tanguila. And I just really want to also appreciate Comrade Cesar Sanchez with the National Network on Cuba. This has been a really powerful, discussion, and just a couple things, Chairman, you can see in the chat, Comrade Harry did, respond to some of the questions that you were asking around the end of history, the foreign affairs piece as well. But I want to just read the comment here from Comrade Harry. He says, the revolutionary clarity and leadership of the APSP and the Uhuru movement have been central to our survival, growth, and development. It has been with us during our work throughout Nuestra America as well. Thank you, comrades Uhuru. So just really want to salute. I know we do need to move towards closing, and we just have just a few more segments of today's program. So I just want to, say thank you so much, comrades. And again, please use the chat to share. And I've already seen that, I'm already seeing that happen. So, wow, Uhuru, Uhuru means freedom, and we're going to move on to our appeal. This is just a very brief overview, calling on everybody to donate, to contribute to this fight back. Again, the Uhuru 3 have submitted their appeal, and they are, moving towards the next step, waiting for a response from the Department of Justice. As I said, this appeal has been elevated now from the courts in Tampa to the Department of Justice. This is the most recent update that we have, and we are expecting oral arguments in 2026. So I just want to again thank everybody who has donated so far to this program. I want to go ahead and name those people who have donated. I want to thank Barbara, one of our panelists, for your $25 donation. Uhuru Barbara. Thank you, Comrade Penny Hess, for your $100 donation. I want to salute Jan, comrade down there on the ground in St. Louis, for your $200 donation. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, MQ, for your $20 donation. Comrade Belinda Parker Brown, who has made a pledge of $40. Thank you so much, comrade. Uhuru to Comrade Becky, $20 donation. Uhuru Becky, and with a $10 donation, Lisa with $25, and MQ with another $20 donation. Uhuru. So this has taken us to total raise for today's webinar, $460, 540 left to go towards our goal. So thank you, comrades, for that. Just really want to salute you. And you can go to, the ways to give. You can go to handsoffuhuru.org /donate. And again, we just want to salute our, our legal team and one of our pro bono attorneys, Leonard Goodman, who has, been doing this work pro bono for his amazing work, and for bringing on the other attorney, Angela Rainey, onto our team. And this is another really profound contribution that we always want to acknowledge during our appeal section. So how do you give? You can give by going to handsoffuhuru.org /donate. As I mentioned, you could also, it's also important to know that your donation is tax deductible. So you could also mail your check and payable to Hands Off Uhuru, and you can send your check to Hands Off Uhuru at 2654 Gravois Avenue, St. Louis, Missouri, 63118. And again, write that you can make that check out to Hands Off Uhuru. You can let us know right now in the chat if you want to make a contribution or make a pledge towards the overall goal for today. And I also want to thank many people who have become retainers. These are sustaining donations that come in monthly towards the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback. Many of these donations help, help this, program go. There's many different expenses that we are still covering. Oh, we can go to the next slide. And just wanted to thank that. And I did want to say that because of your donations, we have been able to officially pay all of the retainer fees for our attorneys. And so, like I said, this $1,000 is going towards the oral arguments, mobilizing for the oral arguments, which will actually be in Atlanta in 2026. So, as the chairman said, and as we understand, comrades, together we will win. I want to say forward to victory and thank you for donating. Keep those donations coming in. And, after this webinar, please continue to share this really profound program. So just want to move on to our next section. And this is our last section before we close today, but we felt it was really important to acknowledge one of the fightbacks that Hands Off Uhuru has adopted. And this is the Black Power 96, which is an independent, radio station, operated, under the leadership of the Uhuru movement. And Black Power 96 was also one of the sites that was attacked on the raids 2022. We were taken off the air. We could not, broadcast what was happening with those violent FBI raids. So this is a really important institution. And we have a comrade from BP 96 who is our promotions manager, Comrade Dr. Mariah, who many of you get to see, their beautiful face, but was also really instrumental in helping with the reenactment of the Uhuru 3 trial as a meme. So Comrade Mariah, it's really great to have you here. And I'm going to turn it over to you. You have some information for us as well as a brief video about the Black Power 96 fight back and the appeal. So Uhuru. Oh, are you there, comrade? Oh, we can't hear you. I can't hear you, at least.
I cannot hear either.
Okay. We'll give the comrade a second to try to resolve the sound. Yep.
There she is.
Okay, but just unmute now. But we could hear you.
All right, you hear him? Are you hearing me now?
Yes.
I'm here. You hear him. Yeah, well, first, I just want to say thank you so much. And just to every dynamic force here on this program and participating in this powerful program today. And want to just thank the Hands Off Uhuru Defense Campaign for supporting the campaign for this restoration of Black Power 96's radio's funding and just allowing us to bring our story to this powerful program today, y'all. And as you know, and for those that don't know, I am Dr. Mariah, the volunteer and promotions and marketing director for Black Power 96 Radio, and one of the hosts of One Africa Worldview podcast also, which airs on Black Power 96. And also want to salute the leadership of Black Power 96's station manager, also even more widely known as the world's best blind DJ, Mr. Eddie Maltzby there. And yeah, so on Thursday, November the 6th, defenders of our First Amendment rights to anti-colonial freedom of speech and association, y'all, will stand with Black Power 96's attorneys as they present oral arguments in the 11th Circuit Court in Jacksonville, Florida. And we want you to know about this case, and we want to call on you all today to attend if you possibly can. And we put together a short video here just to tell the story, including the footage from the actual county commission meetings and where these local officials reveal that their real reason for defunding Black Power 96's radio is because of our association with the Uhuru movement. So Black Power 96 Radio is proud to be associated with the Uhuru movement, and we have a constitutional right to associate with whoever we choose to. And we've taken this fight into colonial courts, y'all. And let's look at that video.
Black Power 96 is a small independent Black community FM radio station in St. Petersburg, Florida. We are fighting a battle in federal court that if we win, we will set case law precedent to protect the First Amendment rights to freedom of speech and association for all media institutions and individuals against the threat of defunding by those in power who seek to eliminate dissent.
Every day in the news, we read about another big media company or educational institution bowing to pressure and throwing their principles out the window.
Black Power 96 Radio is a small station with big impact, and we refuse to abandon our mission. We are a project of the African People's Education and Defense Fund, the baddest nonprofit on the planet.
In 2022, Black Power 96 applied for federal money from the American Rescue Plan Act that was being administered by the local county government. The ARPA money was supposed to assist groups and projects that had been negatively impacted by the COVID pandemic. The station asked for $37,000 to make equipment purchases that had been canceled after revenue was lost during and after COVID.
Black Power 96 application was ranked fourth highest of 55 applicants.
In November of 2022, Pinellas County Commission voted to approve our application.
In January of 2023, APEDF received a contract for the grant, signed it, and returned it.
In February of 2023, a newly arrived Pinellas County Commissioner, Chris Letvala, challenged Black Power 96's grant award. He slandered the African People's Education and Defense Fund by falsely claiming that our nonprofit ran candidates for office, which we do not, and which would have lost us our nonprofit status. He falsely charged us with anti-Semitism and that our nonprofit was under FBI investigation, which we were not. He said that the county should never provide funding to the African People's Education and Defense Fund.
The African People's Education and Defense Fund received money for radio station equipment.
Yes.
Was that for Black Power 96 in St. Petersburg?
Yeah, I think that is for their radio station.
According to their website, and that's the website of the African People's Education and Defense Fund, they're associated with the Ruhus in St. Petersburg.
5 days later, the county voted to revoke Black Power 96's $37,000 grant.
Florida has sunshine laws requiring government officials to be transparent and do their business in public view.
Did the place already get the money?
No, they may try to sue over discrimination, which is why I focused on the radio station aspect the other day. The contract was literally sitting on the CEO's desk. I told staff after the workshop I was going to bring it back up to try to kill it. Don't publicize either of those things, please.
I will not.
The county did not notify the African People's Education and Defense Fund nor the public that a motion would be introduced to revoke Black Power 96 grants. They hid their shameful act in the last obscure agenda item buried underneath the title, County Commission New Business.
Okay, and number 24 is the County Commission New Business, pertinent timely committee boards, updates, and policy considerations. Let's start with Commissioner Lathala.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I actually have two items that I'd like to discuss. The first one is on Thursday, we talked about the ARPA funding, and I had some questions about that. And I would like to make a motion to revoke the funding for African People's Education and Defense Fund in the amount of $36,801 for a radio station, because I do not think that we should be funding radio stations with the amount of needs that there are in our community.
I second that. Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Latvala and seconded by Commissioner Flowers, and now we open for discussion.
There was no public discussion. Just a unanimous vote to revoke Black Power 96 radio's funding.
At the following commission meeting, community members spoke out in support of the station.
I've grown up here and witnessed the gentrification of my city ever since I was in middle school. Walking around, I could see things being demolished right before my eyes. Black Power 96 has been serving the Black community for over half a decade now, providing vital public service announcements, news, and culture. I'm thankful and fortunate to be offered an opportunity at the radio station, as a programmer, as a program engineer for Black Power 96. However, I'm not the first student to work at Black Power 96. A group of Gibbs High School students got their start there with a radio show called No Class. And now, my comrade Iquan works for Nielsen Media Group, which is a radio company. He's made it big, and I want to be able to do the same and see the same thing in my community. Thank you.
I'm a resident of St. Petersburg, Florida, my whole life. I'm 52 years old. I was born and raised here. There's been nobody like Black Power 96 in this city ever. Nobody has done for the community what this station does.
My name is Akila Anai, born and raised in St. Petersburg, Florida, and I'm the Director of Media and Communications for the Uhuru Movement. I'm here today as an outraged citizen of Pinellas County because of the recent decision by this commission to revoke the ARPA grant funds previously awarded to the APF radio station WBPU LP 96.3 FM, or famously known as Black Power 96. This vote came days after a commission meeting where commissioners slandered the Uhuru Movement, making baseless claims and accusations. Latvala and Flowers spearheaded this attack, and the rest of the commission followed suit with the assertion that no organization affiliated with the Uhuru Movement should be considered for funding. The Uhuru Movement, founded and led by Omali Yeshitela, has served the historically oppressed and impoverished Black community for over 5 decades, creating programs, institutions, and campaigns that defend the democratic rights of Black people. This commission cannot say the same. When our people were in need of a community center, a health and wellness program, free HIV testing, youth sports and other recreation, cultural centers, educational institutions, the Uhuru Movement provided them. It has been this movement that has fought long and hard for genuine economic development and reparations to our community, something that at every turn the government has worked to intervene and put a stop to.
The county ignored them.
Then, in April of 2023, the Pinellas Community Foundation, who had been contracted by the county to evaluate grant applications, released their results for the second round of ARPA funding. They again ranked Black Power 96 fourth highest of 79 applicants and recommended granting the station $67,000 for a backup generator.
So on October 10, 2023, the African People's Education and Defense Fund filed suit in federal court, demanding restoration of all funding and charging Pinellas County with violating nonprofits' First Amendment rights to freedom of speech and freedom of association, as well with racial discrimination and denial of due process.
The county is spending vast sums of money on a high-powered private law firm to defend their unconstitutional acts. They filed a motion to dismiss with lies about the Uhuru Movement so egregious they were forced to strike and withdraw.
But a year later, Judge Barber dismissed the station's case.
This spring, the African People's Education and Defense Fund filed an appeal with the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals.
Oral arguments will be heard in this case in Jacksonville, Florida in the first week of November 2025.
The African People's Education and Defense Fund salutes the brilliant work of attorneys Luke Leroux and Rachel Ricks. When the cost of pursuing justice in this case became prohibitive for this small station, renowned First Amendment attorney Leroux offered to continue with the case pro bono, declaring it too important to drop.
Now, Black Power 96 is simply needing to raise funds for the actual case cost of filing, printing, and travel. To support this small station fighting this big battle on behalf of everyone's right to dissent and justice, you can make a tax-deductible donation at blackpower96.org/legalfund.
And join us in court this November in Jacksonville.
Because at Black Power 96, we're not just explaining the world, we're changing it.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. And as you saw there, the commissioners there, and you see everything, Black Power 96 is the voice of the community, y'all. And as you see the commissioners there, they clearly stated that this unconstitutional reason that they were going to revoke the Black Power 96's grant, and then came up and saw them scrambling there with all kind of reasons, just a million different excuses of why they were going to withhold these funds there. And despite the station being ranked fourth highest out of all the applicants that came in there. So yeah, if we win this in court, it's not only a win for Black Power 96, y'all. This is a win for freedom of speech, and we will set a federal case law precedent that benefits hundreds and hundreds of institutions and organizations. And as you already know, you see it going on now, that are being threatened with the defunding. And I'm proud to say that, as it's been historically, it's the African liberation. It's the African struggle there, standing strong and in this forefront, pushing back repressive attacks against the people's rights and keeping the democratic space open for everyone, y'all. And we don't want you just to sit back and watch us make this fight alone. We're calling on you to come and stand with us. Stand with us on November the 6th, 9 a.m., right there at the U.S. Courthouse in Jacksonville, Florida. And you can head over there on the website there. And as you can see here where you click to sign up, let's pack the courts, y'all. Come out to Jacksonville on Thursday, November 6th. Go to blackpower96.org and you can click on this link right here and you can just give us your information and let us know that you're coming. And if you can't come, donate your time, go ahead and donate your help to help someone else attend. And you can contribute right there at blackpower96.org/legal fund. And you can also reach us at email at contact@blackpower96.org. So yeah, come stand with us, y'all, because as you know, and as you've heard throughout this program, we have to stand together here. And you are invited to come and stand with us here while we make this fight. So thank you so much again, y'all. Thank you.
Uhuru. Powerful report. Thank you so much, Comrade Dr. Mariah Bond. And, I just wanted to mention as well the, dynamic, one of the voices that you heard was the dynamic station manager, DJ Eddie, who I have to, make sure that we recognize that comrade, and just want to salute this fight back. As we said, we have to be bold in this, and we want this to also, set another case precedent as well. So, just want to salute Black Power 96 and this fight back, all out on November 6th for the oral arguments. Uhuru. Thank you, comrade. All right, and that information will be placed in the chat and as well. And so right now, comrades, we're going to go ahead and go through our announcements for today and go ahead to close today's program. So I, just on behalf of Hands Off Uhuru and the Fight Back Coalition, I just want to really salute and appreciate every person who has contributed to today's program. I want to thank Comrade Jesus Rodriguez of Orinoco Tribune, bringing us information about the struggle in Venezuela, Peru, Comrade Paulo Cruz Alegui of Los Ronderos de las Redes, Comrade Harry Simon of Unión del Barrio, the struggle of La Raza, Comrades Barbara Larcom of the Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition, as well as Comrade Cesar Sanchez with the National Network on Cuba, and Comrade Roxana Tanguila in Ecuador of the Quijos Nation. So, comrades, today's announcements are going to be quick. So, you can always check back at this webinar to get more information, but we call on you to join the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. Go to handsoffuhuru.org/coalition. Click the button to join this coalition. We want you to be, we want to, continue to embrace, how we organize as people on the front lines. And we want you to help us build this committee, this front of the Latin America front. And you can do that by, signing up on the coalition and, letting us know whatever skills that you also want to contribute to this fight back. So build the committee. Next slide. Build the committee for the Latin America front. And we want to call on everybody to, put in the chat right now, if you heard Chairman Amalia Shatala reference the 17th annual Black People's March on the White House. This is taking place in Washington, D.C. We do this every year. This march will be taking place on Saturday, November 1st, beginning at 11 a.m. in Malcolm X Park, and also a hybrid, virtual and online conference on Sunday, November 2nd. So you can get more information by going to blackisbackcoalition.org. Bring your contingents, bring your flags, bring your banners, Let's be there on the ground, comrades, on Saturday, November 1st. Go to Black is Back Coalition for more information. Uhuru. We want to also salute, and, one of our, another fight back that we have, that we stand in solidarity with and that we want to support is the Bethesda African Cemetery Coalition. We want to remind everybody about the defense for this, sacred burial ground where our ancestors, have rested. This is the African community, who have been targeted of, desecration, historical erasure, and now violent intimidation against those who dare to protect it. So stop the erasure of the Moses African Cemetery, and you can get more information from the Bethesda African Cemetery Coalition. And we want to say, comrades, we are not retreating, we are building. We say hands off the Black Power Blueprint. These are the economic programs of the Uhuru movement. We want to announce that the Uhuru Bakery is underway. We are, the building is up. This is actually an outdated image. If you are in St. Louis, you can, look on the outside and see all that has happened. We will be baking the Uhuru pies in the Uhuru Bakery next month in November. So that has been a huge victory, and we just want to salute the work on the ground in St. Louis. Follow us on social media, any of the following platforms that you see here. We are there, Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. And we want you to, go to handsoffuhuru.org/shop or Uhuru Planet to get your revolutionary gear, including the new design shirt, Kick the Ass of the Ruling Class. You can wear that on November 4th. How appropriate is that? So get the Burning Spear. The October issue is out. Every month you can get a digital subscription or a, physical one sent to you in your door. Go to burningspear.com/subscribe. And also continue to follow us at handsoffuhuru.org, following the events and the activities of the Uhuru 3. As we said, next year we will be launching a major conference on abolishing the Foreign Agents Law and conspiracy laws on January 31st, 2026. So with that, comrades, I will say it is not over. We will continue to fight back until it's won. So I will say, Uhuru, venceremos, and we are winning. Uhuru.